had like 2,000 miles on it. It was a 2008. It had Vance and Hines pipes. It's a beautiful bike. And then the guy built an addition on my house, a friend of mine, and it cost me like they wanted 100. He did it for me for 50. And hardwood floors, everything. So I gave him all the cash. Yeah, I gave him all the cash, and I gave him the crossbones to knock off 13 off the bill. So, yeah.
Do you know the guy who does the interior design work and the construction, Muhammad?
No, I don't know. These are all Spanish guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
He doesn't deal with the Arabic people, bro.
I never really. I there is some,
He's
but
smart. You can't deal with the Arabs in business, bro.
No. You wind up killing one of them guys.
This guy's really good. This guy's really good.
Yeah, they're gonna mess up some shit and you can't say nothing.
We'd be like, we're like,
Oh, you should have told me that.
bro, you.
Am I
It's
good?
alright, Morty. It's alright.
I'm good right here.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
Okay.
Give me that. I said.
You know what? Let me turn this down a little.
Yeah, but I'm about getting I'm about to get a chopper, but I'm like, man, I don't know, man.
No.
I can't do anything long on the chopper. Like, there's no point in me getting one because
No.
I could probably ride that. My back will probably kill after a few.
There's a reason why I'm
Yeah,
asking though.
Straps,
Yeah.
man.
There's a reason why I'm asking. Did you ever wear like a leather bandana with a leather jacket and all that?
No.
Okay.
I never.
Because if you wear a leather bandana with a leather jacket, you know he'd remind you of Macho Man Randy Savage, bro.
Okay.
With some shades? Heck yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Dude, Macho
No.
Man was one of my favorites when I was growing up. I'm not going to lie, dude.
No, I never really did. Helmets and like over stuff, I never really did.
Well, that was the great thing about Illinois. You didn't have to have a helmet to
Exactly.
ride.
Well,
And
when
I learned to ride
when
without a
I-
helmet. And
yeah.
so once you learn to ride without one, you can't.
It's hard,
Yeah,
man.
you can't wear one. It's
Forget
just
that,
hard.
bro.
You know
I'm
what
way
was
too
hard for
careful,
me
man.
when I got out of prison is putting a seatbelt on.
Oh,
I went to prison. There was no
Oh,
such
there's no
thing.
seatbelt laws.
No.
yeah. Remember?
When I came out.
And then they changed it because they started bringing cars out where they had like the automatic one.
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, I remember
But then if you didn't have one, we'd all just like buckle it behind us and put it in because we didn't want to like,
It's
you
so
know, kind of, we
uncomfortable.
didn't want to actually have to put it on, right? Because you got used to not driving it. But it was just crazy, little things like that, man.
Yeah, it was a little weird. You know, the weird thing about it is my friend did 29 and a half years in prison. Got out. He couldn't deal with the seatbelt thing. He died in a car.
Oh, wow.
The car rolled. He didn't have a seatbelt
So
on.
I
He
had a
died.
cousin that got locked up
a
in
year and a couple of months after he got out.
Oh, subhanAllah. I had a cousin that got locked up maybe in 1994, and he came out in like 2013. He was in Logan, okay? And even he came out, everything was, I'm talking about like smartphones,
Oh, wow.
like YouTube, like the whole, like he just, it took him like
missed out on it
months
all.
to like get
Yeah,
adapted to
yeah,
like,
yeah.
just, it was information overload. Like
Yeah.
he had,
Wow, imagine that.
yeah, like he had, like, I mean, just the idea of walking around, like, I mean, he went in while they were still using beepers.
Yeah, that's when I went in.
Shut the heck up.
Yeah, I mean, they had cell phones, but not everybody had a cell phone.
No,
right?
it was the bricks.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
we
they were,
had a
they were
brick,
had like
but-
those big Motorola's, right? And like that's what it.
And
yeah.
the telephone bill, you had to be making a lot of money to pay.
But
that
bro,
phone
it was
bill.
like you'd spend like $100 for like 60 minutes. Like it was super expensive at
was
that time.
it?
Yeah. There was a minute plan, bro.
Nice, bro.
So he went in at that time and like he's like, yo, smartphones, YouTube, like the internet, like everything on the internet, like having laptops and you could download music and videos, like there's a crash course. Like when you came back from music, you spent like a whole year on what was that other dictionary? You told me. Dude, I had to get you caught up. Bro. You were like really behind.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Bad Maluks. My name is Sim. Along with me are my co-hosts, Sheikh Amir,
Assalamu alaikum.
Mort,
Assalamu
and Emad.
Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Glad to have you guys
Thanks,
on
Rookie.
for a Saturday episode. The conflict in Gaza rages on, and we're not going to stop talking about it.
Nope.
They're going to have to, do all kinds of games like they've been doing. They've been doing some denial of service attacks on our network whenever we were live. Remember the last episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were hitting my. I don't know how they got my
Yeah.
IP, but
Yeah.
Oh, you
they're-
you confirmed it? We were
yeah,
talking about that.
They're knocking off our IP.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, if you look at TikTok and ordinary young Americans are telling you, they're reaching out to them and saying, look, we'll pay you $5,000 to stop this and put some videos supporting the IOF and Israel, you know they're gonna try because they can't reach out to you or me or these two brothers and say we're gonna pay you some money not to talk, but they'll play games, the other games.
Well, there was one popular Muslim
$5,000.
YouTuber. She was like, no,
Yeah.
they offered her like almost like $400,000 because she's a major one, and like, if you don't, or else, like, you know, you'll see the consequences. Like, and you know what, they can play their games. You know, yamkuruna wa yamkurullah wallahu khayrul makirin. Like, play your
Exactly.
game. There's no problem.
Yeah.
But you know how I want to show you something. I mean, I want to talk about something. So everyone's been talking about, you know, obviously. The war rages on, and people of the innocents of Gaza are suffering, right? And make no mistake, Israel is winning the war on civilians. That's the it's on it's winning the war on civilians.
Yes.
The issue is that they have not started a war with Hamas, and this is not
They've
about
tried.
this is not about whether you like them or you hate them or whatever it is. These are just facts on the ground. Hamas right now is coming through tunnel. Paint this scenario. For 3 weeks, you've been pulverizing. They've dropped more bombs in 2 weeks than Russia has dropped in almost 2 years in the Ukraine.
Wow, that's a lot.
Right? Just give me an idea, right? Now, despite all that bombing, and they're bombing because allegedly they're bombing tunnels, Hamas networks or terrorist networks, whatever. All this bombing. 4 aircraft carriers there in the region, providing intel support, troops on the ground. All of this stuff happening, and 3 weeks of pulverizing. Let's say a militia that at the very best has like 40 to 50,000 people max. If by their blown up estimations,
Yeah.
right?
They're between 30 and 50,000.
Yeah, that's what they say, right? So all of that bombing over 3 weeks, everything is destroyed. They didn't even spare the animals, like the horses, the cats, everything. I mean, everything is done. Buildings are done. They brought in like even excavators on the road to destroy infrastructure so they can't even move on the roads. All the stuff going on, right? And yet the Hamas fighters are able to still fire rockets, and the way they're doing it is amazing. They came up with something called a Yasin 105. What they're doing is they're going through the tunnels. And what they're doing is they're at zero distance. They're running up to the tanks, and they're placing this device that basically they can trigger right there. It blows up on the tank, and that's the first level because these tanks are retrofit with this explosive shield. So the way it works is when a projectile comes to it, it detonates an explosive shield that pushes back the impact, so people inside of a tank don't feel
It absorbs it.
Absorb it, right. So then usually that's now exposed. So the second impact or projectile is what will blow up a tank. So right when he blows it up, he'll run back, pick up the RPG, and fire one right at the tank and blow it up. And you know what? There's a video about it, and you know what the beautiful thing is? They call it the Yasin 105 because when they're going in there, they're reciting the ayah, وَجَعَلْنَا مِن بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ سَدًّا وَمَا خَلْفِهِمْ سَدًّا فَأَغْشَيْنَاهُمْ فَهُمْ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ. Right? The ayah about them not being able to, how there's a barrier in front of them and a barrier behind them, and they're unseen to them. You can't see them, and they're reciting this ayah while running up there and doing it. And people, military analysts, are looking at this and saying, how do you fight these people? They're like the Israeli military, the U.S. military. They're used to fighting a fight from the sky, from drones, from inside the tanks. These individuals are walking up the tanks and literally detonating their explosive shields, and then effectively demolishing the tank by firing a simple RPG.
Yeah, dude, when I first saw those videos, I was like, dude, this can't be real. How are they just walking up? And then I read the detail on how it's happening. I was like, damn, that's insane.
Typically, there's supposed to be infantry that support a tank.
Yes.
Now, the IDF is not supplying that infantry because the infantry will get picked off by snipers. Because they're so afraid of their ground assault that they're effectively sending these tanks
without ground
support.
support. Yeah. Usually, there's infantry around them that usually guard. They call the sides. Because tanks are, when they're moving, they're not meant to shoot short-range targets. Right? Because they're massive behemoths, like they're big items, right? You move to break down walls, buildings, flush out areas, right? You have ground troops that would then... Tanks are used to support the ground troops, right? Because they want to clear the way for foot soldiers to go in. If there's no foot soldiers, you're leaving your tank exposed. Mind you, I mean, keep in mind this is a military blunder, but this is the greatest, allegedly in their mind, the greatest military in that region, with all these countries backing them, giving them military advice, all these things. This is not because they're dumb. Keep in mind, this is Allah working with the Mujahideen.
Allah.
I'm telling you, because you can say, oh, it's them. There's no way. They don't know anything more than we know about. They probably know much more than we know about military, right? They study these things. They study tactics and all these things and formations. But what is it about it that's making them make these blunders? And this is a coupling with the thing we were talking about last week. All these ayat of Allah on inside that are happening. Their legs being crippled, legs being deformed. They're walking in. They're unable. They feel like there's massive armies behind them. They don't know where they're coming from. And they're fighting.
They're smelling.
One of them said, "We're fighting ghosts in the sky. We don't know where they're coming from, but something is there." These things that are happening, right? The smell of musk all over Gaza. All these things, right? Like these are like signs that that Allah is fortifying them.
Divine intervention.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And think about that. And these are people who are saying, "How do you?" I mean, experts are saying, "How do we fight? How are we going to win this war? What is the end game here?"
And see, one very important factor to remember here is on our side, and sometimes it scares me a little bit, is that credit for these successes go to the right place, and that is, first of all, that it's Allah. The thing about, there's always been Palestinian freedom fighters, but never as effective as Hamas. And not that they weren't as brave as Hamas, they were brave, but Hamas has Islam. And that's what differentiates them and these other one, Fatah, PLO, PFLP, the Democratic so and so for liberation of Palestine.
Yeah, but Popular Front.
The Popular Front was my that's what my uncle and my father were a part of.
Oh, they were part of that.
Popular
Front, communist.
Not all of them, but remember the Popular Front had a split between George Habash and Ahmad Jibril. Yeah. Ahmad Jibril stayed in Syria. He is, inshallah, possibly, and Allah knows best, I believe he's gone now. He's, inshallah, he's burning in hell right now for attacking our Syrian Sunni brothers and sisters on the side. He fought on the side of Assad and his Shabiha and his gangs. So, so he's so there's they have, when you have Popular Front, so you had the staunch communists were the ones that followed George Habash.
Yeah.
George Habash is a Palestinian Christian. Don't get me wrong. Very honorable guy. He was one of few guys that said no to peace with Israel. We're not negotiating. There is no way I'm going to negotiate with you and say you could have an inch of my land.
Didn't he name his son Muhammad or something? Or is that Michel Afo? I don't know who, Aflaq. I don't know, one of them. Anyways,
yeah.
But from that party, there was also the Baptists that came out from them as well.
Yes,
too.
Yeah. So they had a few different things. You had the Abu Nidal, who did a lot of dirty stuff.
Yeah,
the
PLO has party.
PLO, even under Arafat, some may not like this. See, the problem with us, especially in the Middle East and even in Pakistan and these other places, man, is this thing of almost like, I don't know if it's tribalism, but I like this leader, so I'm willing to overlook all his dirt and his faults, and I'll support him no matter what. And believe it or not, as dirty as Abbas is, Mahmoud Abbas, Abu Mazen, he's got a strong following. I mean, they're not.
Yeah, but you know how they get that strong following?
Yeah,
it's by
corruption.
By corruption.
By corruption. But that's what I'm trying to tell you, that we, you think that me and you, right? There's certain things we'll never do, right?
Yeah.
Like we'll never compromise certain things, But that, and you think every Muslim is like that, and that's far from the truth, man. You got some pretty devious individuals out there, man, and they will hold grudges against you just for saying. bro, I say things about, I don't hide what I feel about the Shia. And I don't feel that way about the Shia because I just woke up one day and I said, I'm going to feel this way about them. And I don't want to turn the conversation to them, but part of the conversation is going to be about them. That somebody thinks that we fall for this La La Land stuff. So somebody says, I say something, and boy, they go on the attack on me. These are Sunni Muslims, Palestinians, Jordanians, and so on. But I'm saying, bro, I had a conversation with a young brother. He's from here, born here, I believe. And then he's telling me, oh, I see you've been brainwashed. And I'm brainwashed. And I'm with some Saudi or Iran. I'm with Iran. And I'm like, bro, this is like childish stuff. I'm not talking about Saudi. First of all, I don't even recognize Saudi. I recognize Hijaz. I don't recognize something the British built and put there. We know what this Sharon bin Salman is doing and has been doing. Okay? So I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about Aqidah. Belief, your Islamic belief. So he says something. I said, okay, bro, let me just say this to you. If I said that the Quran was muharraf, it's corrupt. If I said, may Allah forgive me, Aisha and Umar and Uthman and Abu Bakr were kuffar, would you take those four things and say, I'm still a Muslim?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
And he had nothing to say. And they're waiting. And I'm going to tell you, they're waiting for some, I think many are waking up to the fact that along with the Zionists in the Middle East, our number one enemy aside from them is Iran.
Yeah.
Iran hates the Arabs to death. And Iran used to be majority Sunnis. And they adopted Shiaism from Iraq simply because they never forgot the fact that the Persian Empire fell because of Islam.
Yeah, Dawla Safawiya. That's when the 12ers came about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're waiting for something from those people. Have taken it upon themselves. If the Free Syrian Army would have been victorious and they took over 85% of Syria, if they would have taken over Syria, this is why they stopped helping. See, Saudi wanted to help the Free Syrian Army, but they never expected them to make the gains they did. And when they did, it scared them and they backed up a little bit. They wanted war with Assad, but they wanted to contain that war within Syria. The way things were going, it was going to spill out of Syria and into Jordan and then eventually into Saudi and
Lebanon.
Definitely into Israel and Lebanon.
Yeah. But speaking about this though, right? Let's kind of contextualize it for today.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, speaking about that, Nasrallah had a speech.
Yeah. Which I didn't listen to.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
I don't. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't
So,
listen to any. I can't stand the sight of that
I
individual.
had a chance to listen to it, and the vibe that I got from that speech was basically, to sum it up, was that letting the Americans and the Israelis know, hey, listen, we support Palestine, but we had nothing to do with that.
Exactly.
Don't
They're on
attack
their
us.
Like we said from the
Yeah,
beginning.
we
talked about it from the
didn't.
beginning.
We didn't do it. So they're making it very clear that directive didn't come from them.
Exactly.
Not
Right?
just that,
So
they
they're trying
also
to
said-
absolve themselves of any responsibility or blameworthiness on that issue.
But they're also saying effectively that Hamas is on its own.
Exactly.
They
Yeah.
said that
Exactly.
we're not going to come in with a drone
Exactly.
invasion. We'll fire a few rockets, make it look like we defend. And people are so naive, man.
Yes,
because
they are.
I've been saying this from the beginning of this conflict. I tweeted and I reminded people because I put the tweet up when this all started that don't expect Iran and Hezbollah to come.
No.
All right. Everyone in that region is looking out for their best interests, and these people don't see Palestine as an area that they would want to risk losing billions,
It's not
millions of dollars.
Profitable for them to
It's
be
not
involved.
profitable for
So
them.
this
That's
applies.
and-
This applies to the
and not-
Saudis,
not
to
only-
the Turks, to the Syrians,
Exactly.
to the Lebanese,
And not
the
only-
Jordanians, Egyptians, all of them.
And
together.
not only is it not profitable, there's a problem here. Okay? Even though Mecca is in Hijaz and Medina is in Hijaz, it seems the fire for Islam comes out of Jerusalem and Palestine.
Yeah.
So Hamas, in particular, is not a team those governments would want to back, because what Hamas talks about and what Hamas's vision is an Islamic nation controlled by Islam. This is something contradictory to what these filthy Arab governments are.
Right.
All of them, and so they would like to see nothing more than the decimation and just the disappearance of Hamas and its ideology in that region, so we could move forward in our filth to complete the Middle East into almost what Sharon bin Salman said, into like even more modern in filth than Europe.
The reason why we talk about this, and I just want to tell the listeners, we talk about this because we have to understand where the problems are. Where's the framework of our enemies, meaning our Muslim governments, who are actively undermining what we want. We want them to come to the rescue. Why aren't they coming to the rescue?
Yes.
And we have to understand that. If you don't understand why, you're going to keep on hoping and praying that they do something. And the reason why we do that, we call on them and to do something, but we know they're not going to do anything. And that's why we're highlighting that aspect.
And
you guys.
also, if you are not educated about this stuff and they don't come, and your mind and your heart is expecting for them to come, you fall into sadness. And defeat starts to set in until you understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his beloved messenger Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said they will be there and they will be surrounded with an enemy and they will receive no help from anyone. But they will learn the Quran and my Sunnah and they will teach it to other. Me as a layman, and I'm not giving tafsir on it, I'm thinking teach it to others by action.
No, you're right. No, look, what you said is 100% spot on. Look, the reason why we're talking about this, look, there's two reasons. Number one is people say, look, you guys are just talking about all these things. I met somebody yesterday and I obviously had a good conversation with them and we got it resolved, but they were like, I've been listening to all the podcasts regarding Gaza and you're just talking about all the problems and you're unpacking. I said, okay, stop right there. What are we unpacking? What is unpacking here? What's the reason for unpacking something? Is to bring to light to something that people are not talking about in the discourse, because when we get to that level of unpacking something, then we can build off of that. That's what we call raising awareness. If the general populace is not aware of these things, then where are you going to build off from? You're going to build off from down here of like being naive about something and thinking that something's effective when it's not. That's the first thing. The second thing is when you were talking about Gaza in specific, look, when I first heard this hadith, I was thinking, you know what? Let me check up on this hadith. And dude, this hadith is so profound to the level of Ibn Taymiyyah, many other muhaddithin in the past said this reaches a level of mutawatir. We all heard the hadith of Rasulullah and they have different endings. We heard the beginning where it said that first there's going to be prophethood, right? There's going to be prophethood. Some of them say there's going to be prophethood, and then there's going to be rahmah. There's going to be kingdoms, and then there's going to be rahmah, meaning paired with it, meaning people are going to live under kingship, but but they're still going to feel some type of contentment, right? So that hadith, now there's an ending of a hadith, and that ending of the hadith came in many narrations, and that says, and look how beautiful this is. Rasulullah, he says, أفضل جهادكم الرباط. The best of your jihad is in al-ribat. Ribat means the most desperate, the most vulnerable place. Some refer to it as a front line, the place that's the shield, the place that's the original intelligence of the first battalion that protects everybody else, the one that doesn't sleep, the one that's awake when rest of the battalions are sleeping and resting, right? They have the greatest responsibility.
The vanguards.
Thank you. I should have just said that. Thank you more. أفضل جهادكم الرباط. إن أفضل رباطكم العسقلان.
Allah. Subhanallah.
He said the best of your front lines is Asqalan. Asqalan right now is south of Gaza.
It's
Ashkelon?
north.
Yeah,
No,
north.
north.
It's the north. Okay.
Not far. I mean, right there.
Yeah, no. But the thing is, like, so I was researching this hadith. In the past, when scholars were doing sharh of this hadith, they refer to it as Ghazat Asqalan, like as if it's synonymous. Like same way that Andalus now just became Andalusia, but before the Muslims used to refer to all of Spain as Andalus.
Yeah.
It was the same thing.
So
what?
Gaza's attached to Asqalan.
Yes,
So Ashkelon was the port for them.
Yeah.
Yes, no, but that's what was considered.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
That was
it's-
the port for Gaza.
No, but check this
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
The
yeah.
Sahaba, when they were referring to this, they're referring to the whole place of Gaza as
Yeah.
Asqalan, right? So I was like, okay, now let me look into this a little more. Then they said that no, this message of the hadith climbs to the level of mutawatir because of the level and the amount of narrations about Al-Asqalan. And I was like, okay, because I heard it's something you hear in the past, but you're like, maybe it's just somebody that said something historically to get Muslims on board or unite them and all that kind of stuff, right? From my own ignorance. Now, when you see what Gaza actually has, people can look at it and be like, okay, what? Look, they're getting carpet bombed. What are they actually doing? But this is the crazy part. Victory is only victory of what Allah and His Rasul consider victory.
Exactly.
Right? As Allah mentions in the Quran, you're either going to get victory or you're going to get martyrdom.
Yes.
And both of those are considered victory. None of those are considered losses.
For us, yes,
For
definitely.
us. So martyrdom is there. We know that with the people of Gaza. And Allah accept from them. The other is, though, they're people who everyone around them has disenfranchised and ostracized. Nobody's with them.
Exactly.
They're all on their own.
Yes.
They're all on their own. They have the least amount of weaponry that any Muslim entity can have.
Exactly.
And they're still putting up a fight.
Yes.
They're going through all that hardship. And what are the messages that we hear from the people? Hey, we don't want this from you. We don't want your du'as. We're just concerned about. The rhetoric was different from them. Now what they've seen, if they're given hope of everybody, they're like, we know we're on our own. No one's going to help us. The aid that's supposed to come in, the humanitarian aid, was stopped to come in. All these people that are giving donations, hoping that they can help. The people of Gaza see this, right? And they're thinking to themselves, you know what? These people have to answer. We're good the way we are right now.
Exactly.
These people have to answer in front of Allah
Yes.
now because they're supposed to be from our ummah. But we're going to hold down Masjid al-Aqsa. We're going to hold this fort down. And that's why the truth of, the Rasulullah hadith manifests itself in Al-Asqalan, min Gaza to Asqalan.
Did you see what the brother, he's high up in Hamas. He's actually was deported out to the United States. He was arrested in Chicago, Marzouk. Did you see what he said about the civilians? And if you don't really understand what he's saying, you'll say, "Wow, that's pretty cold." He said, 1.5 million of the people in Gaza are refugees. Who's responsible for those? Under international law, the UN is involved for those. So they failed in protecting those people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To go off of this, if you don't understand, you would think, wow, that's pretty cool. You're saying, and why didn't they have bunkers for them and stuff like that? If they had bunkers for them, they'll still bomb them and send bunker busters down there, just like they did in Iraq to those that were in shelters. I'll tell you this, for anybody who doesn't know, how many rabbis and how many Zionist politicians have said, even murder their children, and they're using Torah.
Yeah.
So think about this. Vast majority of the dead are what? Children and women. Yeah. Women bear the children. Children grow up to be men and women. So you knock off the children and the women. If you leave the men will finally die off. And that's their mentality. So when someone says they think that this is collateral damage and stuff like that. No, this is intentional.
Yes, very
intentional. This is genocide. This is the intent of it is genocide. And genocide is to wipe out a people completely. And this is what they're trying to do by wiping off the children, the women who bear them. The children don't grow up, and all that's left is the men. The men go to a certain age and die off.
And I know you're going to show something. The scary part about this, for some, it's glad tidings. For the believers, we know that Allah Allah is with those people. Some
Yes.
people have this concept of where they say, oh, Allah is with you, then how come you're being defeated, right? No,
Yeah.
that's not what victory is for us.
exactly.
Allah is with us, regardless of what happens to us, and we have our best.
How long was the children of Israel in bondage with Pharaoh?
That's
How
true.
long? How long before Musa received the victory to be able to pull them out? How long was it? How long was it? How long were the Muslim lands in bondage by the Crusades? The last one, 500 years. How long did the Muslims suffer before they started to see victories? Even during the time of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam,
right.
the suffering and so on, to where they
Yes,
were
sir.
so hungry they tied rocks around their stomachs with ropes to push so they don't feel the pain of hunger, where they received no food, no nothing for 3 years. A lot of people don't understand. It's in the desert of what is now Saudi, was then Hijaz. So that's a person who clings on to this world. They understand that.
Yes.
But what we have, look, when 9/11 happened, and now we know who did 9/11. I hate to jump off subject. Okay, we know who did 9/11. We know aluminum plane with some fuel that burns so fast that it doesn't sit there. Kerosene is so hot that it burns immediately like that. It doesn't stay there to torch something. Okay, and those planes are only fueled with a certain amount of fuel to go from point A to point B. They don't try not to fuel them above the distance they're going. They know all this. That lands on top on the 100th floor, but the building starts to fall down from the first floor.
No,
So-
dude, the beams. It was the beams that melted.
Yeah, right. On the top floors. Okay, if it melted on the top, it would have knocked down the floors above the 100, not below the 100. But anyway, aside from that, but what was the number? So they did that. The Zionists were the ones who did it. So they did that to distinguish the Nur of Allah. One, what happened after that? The number one selling book in the world was the Quran.
Yes,
The
sir.
printing presses could not even print enough Qurans to sell or to give away. Now, you watch TikTok and
Yes,
you
sir.
watch social media, and there's European women, Jewish women,
Yep.
Jewish men, European men, African American women, educated people from all over the world saying, I never thought I would ever grab this Quran. When I did grab it and I read it, I felt the weight lifted off my shoulder. Guess what? There's going to be a lot of Muslims.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of people
And that's what they're saying
reverting
too.
to Islam.
No, they're saying that too. You know, when I saw
Yeah.
that,
I saw this Jewish girl on TikTok. saying
That's
that.
her.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You saw that?
That's the same
Yeah,
one.
she was
Yeah.
saying, you know what? She's like, I opened this up, and she's like, I actually agree with this. And she goes,
Yeah.
you guys are gonna have a lot of converts.
lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Muslims.
And then she goes, wait a minute. I mean, you guys say reverts. Like, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Like reverts.
No, but
I
look,
like
guys,
that.
look.
And then she goes, yeah, you guys are really gonna get a lot of
Yeah.
reverts.
no,
Yeah.
no, dude, and that's very, very true.
And-
But the other thing is this: look, there's so many facets of life that, because of Asqalan of Gaza, that it uncovered and lifted the fog. I'll give you a
Yes.
small example. So many people, when they felt deception about this situation, they started researching everything.
Exactly.
Even the health and food,
Yes.
stuff like the stuff that some of my
Everything.
wife follows. She's like, wait, they were like researching all these chemicals that are in food and all.
Yes.
Like, it's just opening up a whole bunch of things. So, like, I was telling this to some of the brothers yesterday. You know, Allah in the Quran, it's used for Yawm al-Qiyamah, right? This verse in Surah Tariq, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Yawma tubla as-sarair. That day, all the secrets
All
are
the
going to
secrets are gonna come out.
right? And the beautiful thing about Asqalan is the sacrifice that they're doing in this front line, the effect and the magnitude it has, the ripple effect is so powerful, it's seeping into other industries of
It's-
uncovering secrets.
I'm going to tell you what this has done. There is no recovering from it. For atheists, for people who are when you say Zionism, you might as well just say atheism. There is no religious belief that can support this Zionist
That's true,
ideology. Period. In any religion, whether it was if it was Zionism was attached to Islam, they don't go together. Whatever it is, there is no rebounding from this. The cat is out of the hat.
No, especially now that the world has seen
Yes.
that the ability or the willingness of Zionists to kill the number of children that they have.
Yes.
The UN reported that the amount of children that have been killed in this conflict exceeds all the children that have died in conflict zones from 2019.
Yeah,
From
past 4 years.
2019.
Yep, past 4
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So we're talking about Libya, Sudan, Yemen, Burma, all these places.
Yes.
The Uyghurs in China,
Afghanistan.
all these places, Yemen, even the starvation in Yemen.
Yeah.
All of those children that have died
Combined.
in 3 weeks, they've surpassed that.
Yes.
But Tim, I wanted to ask you something. Sorry to cut you off, bro. The first thing that I was alerted from last night, from Newsbreak and all that kind of stuff, is the pause that was supposed to take place. That Blinken went and talked to Netanyahu and said you have to have this pause for humanitarian aid, the pause of this war, to get all the humanitarian aid and all that kind of stuff. And Netanyahu didn't agree to that, and he just kept on going and going. There was supposed to be a pause, right? So is that something just theatrics that's in the news, or is he just gone completely rogue and he's just not listening? Because they're acting like they're flustered with him.
Well, see, and I don't mean to cut you off. First of all, Blinken is one of them.
Yeah.
He's a war criminal. He is no different than Netanyahu. That's one. So in the whispers, God only knows what was whispered. We know it was nothing good. Let's put it that way. But if you look at the rhetoric of the Zionists, even on media, in plain sight, in cameras, that's it. They've gone over the edge. They're willing to say, we are going to kill all of them. The only innocent people in that piece of the land are those who
The rhetoric could change. Now it's at this point. Yeah.
Yes. The only innocent people there right now is those prisoners of war.
Not even them. They're saying
No,
actually
but they've said that.
Yeah, they're killing.
Yeah,
They're
killing them. Yeah, but that's what they're saying.
Just to add on to this, to show you the level of monstrosity
Yeah,
these
And
people can
hypocrisy.
display.
Yeah.
monstrosity is even better than hypocrisy because they're willing to do it.
Yes, the Eretz newspaper, Israeli source, not Al Arabiya, not Al Jazeera,
Yeah.
not anybody else. They did an investigation into the festival stuff, and they talked to survivors, and they have talked to them and realized that the narrative that Israel has put forward is not true. That
Of course.
when they went to the villages and they saw the aftermath, they found that homes were charred, and they were shelled. How did that happen? Well, a survivor gives her testimony and says that in panic, they were communicating with the commanders, and they willingly shelled that area, knowing well that there were civilians inside,
Yes.
in order to target Hamas that was there, right? So they voluntarily put their own on the line and killed them and bombed them in these kibbutzes, in these farms, because they instead of wanting to deal with Hamas on a hand-to-hand level, in a combat level,
Yeah.
and run extractions,
Which they're having to do now. Yeah.
they wanted to just bomb the hell out
Okay,
of it.
but my question is this. I agree with that 100%. And I know,
Wait.
I've read about it. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying, the point being is that as this stuff comes out, it's becoming clear
It was very clear.
as to what extent. See, I think a lot of people had an understanding of how Israel behaves. They believe, there's no doubt that people know that Israel believes in collective punishment, even against their own. But I think what's really telling now is the world is beginning to see at what lengths foreign nations and former civilized nations would go to in order to defend this type of behavior.
Yeah.
They had this policy before, and if people don't, this whole Hamas, we're getting Hamas by bombing their home. This is, of course, we know the lie about it, but we want to understand how this kind of played out in the Zionist mind, how they came up with this idea of punishment. And you have to rewind back to when the PLO and them used to do suicide bombings, right? And what they did was they enacted this policy where if you were the family of a suicide bomber,
PLO, you mean Hamas?
or Hamas,
PLO wouldn't have the guts to do it like that.
where back then when they did the suicide bombing, they would go and demolish the home
They would blow
of
up
the
house.
They would destroy
Yes.
it with the bulldozers and etc.
Or just detonate it.
So it wasn't, even though the guy's gone, but they would punish the entire family.
Exactly. Which is
So this is they had this mindset
Yes.
of collective punishment, and that people need to understand that this didn't just start now of collective punishment.
No.
Or it didn't start 5
Very
years
important
ago.
point.
It started much earlier. They want everyone to
From the
feel
onset.
it. It's a complete lie where they're saying that they're trying to get Hamas and the tunnels and
that's how the nation was created.
yeah.
On with behavior like that. Another thing that really irks me, we tend, even Muslims and Arabs tend to say this, and it really it's mind-boggling that Israel created Hamas to what? To offset the PLO. Are you kidding me? And I'm sitting listening earlier how they saved Sheikh Ahmad Yassin by giving him the most medical treatment and so on and so on. They put Sheikh Ahmad Yassin in a wheelchair from all the torture and the beatings and the pain.
What do they claim? Who
There's
gave
this-
medication to Sheikh Ahmed Yassin?
People who argue that Israel created Hamas.
Well, they initially did fund some of it, but they didn't realize what they were doing. They thought they were just creating something that will cause a. They didn't know.
I will tell you this.
Yeah.
I will tell you this. These Zionists, they're not stupid. They are. They didn't get where they got by being stupid. What I mean is worldwide. Now it's coming out where even Netanyahu is so brazen that he said, we own Congress. We make the laws. So they didn't get that. They know exactly what Islam would do to them. They're not stupid.
Yeah.
To push heavily into an organization to be Islamic based.
Thank you, Madam.
Let me just put this.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Islamic based organization would be suicide. So, but they teach us and they program us with these things so we could repeat them. We don't even know. What are you repeating something like that for? What is the purpose of repeating something like that? But they repeat it to dirty it. They defeated the Free Syrian Army by talking about creating ISIS and then mixing the whole thing together, and it was okay to what we're bombing ISIS. In the meantime, not touching ISIS, but bombing the Free Syrian Army on a regular basis. And you got carte blanche to wipe them out. And so they put this filth out there, and they gave Sheikh Ahmad Yassin. Sheikh Ahmad Yassin did not go into prison in a wheelchair. He was tortured so much that they paralyzed him from all the beatings and all the stuff they did to him. May Allah have mercy on his soul.
So no, here's the thing. Okay, so let me just play this
ahead.
clip, and
Go
then
ahead.
I'll explain
Yes.
why, what happened.
What do you think?
Madam Speaker, I rise in opposition to this resolution, not because I am taking sides and picking who the bad guys are and who the good guys are, but I'm looking at this more from the angle of being a United States citizen, an American, and I think resolutions like this really do us great harm. In many ways, what's happening in the Middle East, and in particular with Gaza right now, we have some moral responsibility.
Can you pause? What resolution specific are they talking about? Do you know? Or
This
is
is
that-
in a previous conflict about some conflict related to Israel Palestine.
Okay, and do you know approximately what year this is when this actually happened? I'm
I
sorry to
can
make
pull
you
it
look.
up.
No, you don't have to look.
Let me just play it, and I can look it up for
Because I
you.
was just in my mind trying to give it some context. But yeah, go ahead.
For both sides, in a way, because we provide help and funding for both Arab nations and Israel. And so we definitely have a moral responsibility, and especially now today, the weapons being used to kill so many Palestinians are American weapons, and American funds essentially are being used for this. But there's a political liability which I think is something that we fail to look at, because too often there's so much blowback from our intervention in areas that we shouldn't be involved in. You know, Hamas, if you look at the history, you'll find out that Hamas was encouraged and really started by Israel, because they wanted Hamas to counteract Yasser Arafat. And you say, well, yeah, that was better then and served its purpose, but we didn't want Hamas to do this. So then we as Americans say, well, we have such a good system, we're going to impose this on the world. We're going to invade Iraq and teach people how to be Democrats. We want free elections. So we encourage the Palestinians to have a free election. They do, and they elect Hamas. So we first indirectly and directly through Israel help establish Hamas. Then we have election. Then Hamas becomes dominant, so we have to kill them. You know, it just doesn't make sense. During the 80s...
Okay, so it does make sense if you understand why the Israeli mindset. Why they'll say on surface, oh, yeah, we created Hamas. Even they're admitting to it, yes, we did. And we regret it. You know, we were trying to do divide and rule. If you hear the Israeli thinkers, yes, they'll admit it's a terrible mistake. But they're even lying about that. It's not a terrible mistake. They intentionally did it because they never wanted the two-state solution to begin with. There are some Israelis in their mind that they wanted a two-state solution. That's a cover story. That the public will say, oh yeah, we wanted. Yasser Arafat walked away from the two-state solution accords in the what's it, early 90s, where
1994.
1994, where
Oslo, when
the Oslo Accords.
Yeah.
And so that's the cover story that they say in reality, when you look at their actions, they never wanted it because they keep taking away the lands from the West Bank, from the Palestinians who live in the West Bank. They're just keep taking away everything, and they utilize Hamas as a way to take more land because they don't want that two-state solution. They want it all, even the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, everything. They want all the Palestinians at the Jordan and Egyptian borders as refugees.
And that's let me.
So whether or not Hamas, we're not saying that Hamas is bad or that these are their agents of. No. But we're trying to help people understand that Israel works to the true Zionist intention of using that as a reason to take everything away.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and here's the thing, like we talked before, and I said before, any Palestinian Muslim / Arab is talking about making peace with the Zionists, obviously has been rocked to sleep and understands nothing about Zionism. And as we've talked before, what is the ideology? This ideology called Zionism. And if there is no way to negotiate with someone's telling you, I'm taking this phone because I'm a Zionist, and Zionism says I am taking all of this phone
because I'm entitled to it.
Not just I'm entitled to it. How are you talking about making peace so he could give you a corner of it? He's saying I'm taking all of it. So as we talked before, the most liberal Zionist says from the Mediterranean Sea to the Jordan River, from the Lebanese border to the furthest point at the Red Sea, which is Eilat, and into the Sinai Desert, the bordering this. That's the most liberal. And we talked before that Netanyahu's father was an outspoken, most extreme Zionist there was, and he said from the Nile to the Euphrates, period. When you look at the so-called Israeli flag, it has those two, we talked about this before, those two blue lines. Those two blue lines are they are the Nile at the bottom and the Euphrates at the top, and so-called Star of David, which David never knew nothing about. They can't even attach it to David. Everything in between that, Jewish. The Euphrates, the Nile. That's the most extremist. So how, even for the most liberal, is that they're saying from the Mediterranean to the Jordan River, and what we said before, is only for Jewish people. How are you making peace with these people? You're delusional. There is no such thing as making peace. They're telling you they want it all. And you, Palestinian Muslims and Palestinian Christians, have to get out. You know, I was at the mosque. I'll mention a few things, and there's some old men that sit around usually. You know how old men, boy, they sit around. I used to like it when I was a kid back home. I used to go sit with my grandfather in Jerusalem and listen to him and his friends talk, these old men. And, you know, it's a nice talk. But most of it is nonsense. Okay? So they're having a conversation and they're giving these Zionists, these modern day, not all Jews are Zionists, but giving modern day Jews these titles of Benu this and Benu that, and I'm thinking, and I'm saying, I'm listening to them, and I started laughing, and they looked at me, and I got up and I left, because I just, you know, you don't discuss Ali ibn Abi Talib, and a brother just told me this. He said, I've never won a discussion or argument with a stupid person. I've always, the most losses in discussions and arguments have been with people who are stupid. So I don't do it anymore. Him talking about, you see, Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu anh is telling you, basically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you, deal with people according to their level of understanding. And the thing is, when our people say things like that, and I've said it before, you legitimize these people. These people are 80% Ashkenazi. What is Ashkenazi? They're Germanic. Look it up. These people have converted to the Jewish faith. They're not Bani Israel. These are different people. They're not the people. Stop saying they are Awlad Amna. They are our uncle's kids, meaning Isaac and Ishmael. That's not these people. Stop doing that. And the last
But what
thing
does that
is,
even mean? I mean, look, if you want to, just because you're related to you, so Abu Lahab, what does that mean anything?
No,
I
it's
mean,
not.
even the sons of Nuh.
The meaning of it is not that. The meaning of it is not about relation. The meaning of it is it gives them legitimacy to the land, meaning they came from that land. But the problem is,
It takes off the edge. That's what you're saying.
No, what I'm saying
It takes
is
off the edge of
no,
the
because
alarmingness.
we're saying this is not your land. And they're saying, no, this is ours before yours, because we were here 2,000 years ago. The issue is this: when you say they are the side of Abraham from Sarah and Isaac, you're putting legitimacy that they were there 2,000 years ago when they were not. That's not them. That's not them. These are converts. Was a German Christian who converted to Christianity, because we know Christianity didn't start in Germany, was a German Christian, or is a German Christian from the land of Palestine? Is he from Bethlehem? He's not. He converted to the Christian faith. So what I'm saying is, stop saying these are Bani Israel, because you're giving them legitimacy, because they're saying we came from there.
They're
when
not
they
Bani
did
Israel, but they're Jews.
Of the
yeah.
Jewish faith.
Wait, so-
That's
so-
it. They're converts. And lastly, if you are them and you say your father is Abraham, how could you possibly be indigenous of Palestine? Because Abraham came from Ur. So you would be indigenous of Ur, not Palestine, because when Abraham, may the peace and blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who Allah said, this is my friend, when he went to the land of Palestine, there was Canaanites and 2, 3, or 4 other groups of people. So they were the indigenous people.
See, Emad, all this stuff is like
Yes.
background chatter to me.
Yes.
Because right now they have the biggest guns and they're
Yes.
here.
Yes.
You know, so when they talk about it's irrelevant. They're here, and we have to figure out how and what their plans are.
But
right?
here's the thing.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. That chatter
Yeah.
tricked most of the West into supporting them. That chatter tricked most
I
of
see
the
what you're
Christians in the churches. Let me finish what I'm saying. In Europe to support them, and in the United States. And what I mean by that is they use this. God says in the Bible, we have to stand by Israel and bless Israel. And these are the children of Israel in the land of Israel. And how are you going to face God?
I see what you're saying. Yes, sir.
By not supporting them. And the argument for us as Muslims, and I've said it to them, I said, look, my guy, I bless Israel too. What? Israel, the prophet, every time I say Israel, meaning Jacob, I say, may the peace and blessings of God be upon him. That's how you bless Israel.
Yes,
it's not a piece of land. It's a piece of land that belonged to Israel, meaning it belonged to prophet Jacob. May the peace and blessings be upon him. The land itself was never called Israel. So this is chatter. Yes, it is. But that chatter for 100 years made the ordinary Christian in the West who went to church and was duped by his preacher and his reverend, who was more than likely receiving money from Zionists to say these things, to support that land and help take our land.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah, I
Very
mean,
true.
I get where this is coming from. But I think even
Awareness.
as a simplistic argument, right? If they want to, like, what he's arguing is that, or what he's saying is that the biblical narrative has been used in order to propagate
And
this
twist
idea
it.
that the
Yes.
land belongs to the so-called people who are labeled as Jews today,
yeah.
right? That's the argument, right? So even if you want to go back to the issue of, who these people are, right? Because they're going to come back and they're going to tell you, well, we have genetic studies. These people are closely related, and there's 4 maternal mothers. They do all this kind of stuff. But here's the issue. This is something that they cannot do. If they're going to bring a biblical argument to you, right? This is just for the sake of the banter. The Jews are from who? From Yehuda.
From Judah, yeah.
The Bible says that God gave it to the children of Israel.
Yes,
There's more. That's only one tribe.
exactly. We've talked
There's
about
11 other tribes, and among them there is archaeological history that other tribes became other religions.
that. Yes.
And the Christian cannot deny this. Why? Because the first followers of Jesus in their books were Jews. They became Christians. They were from Beni Israel. So if they became Christians, can they not also become Muslims?
Of course, but it says it. It says it in the, we talked about this in a simple, when I was fighting my case for the immigration, I had to almost do a book to fight for my identity. I'm dealing with a court of circus in Louisiana, Oakdale, Louisiana, and they're asking me, and they're talking like I don't exist. Like I'm sitting there and it's you guys talking, and I'm like, I'm sitting here, and they're talking like about me, as if I'm not here.
That's crazy.
Oh, he must be Jordanian. There really was no Palestine. What was it at the time? And who was it? And I'm like, what? And I had to go back to the prison, and I did a book. I made a book from their books. And Encyclopedia Britannica, a simple opening of the front page when it talks about when the Muslims came to Jerusalem, 638 AD. The inhabitants in and around Jerusalem, it clearly says it. Like the Muslims' way and the way the Muslims behaved and their way of life and culture, so much Arabic / Islamically, that they reverted to the Islamic faith, most of them, not all of them, and learned the Arabic language and learned the Arabic culture, hence the term Arabized Arabs, meaning a lot of the Palestinians are not ethnically Arab, but 1,000 years or 1,200 or 1,300 years of Islam in that land has turned people into Arabs. And I don't have a problem with being an Arab. I don't have a problem with being a Pakistani. I don't have a problem with being anything, because none of it means anything. The only thing that means anything, our identity is Islam, our religion is Islam, and we are Muslims. And that's it. That's the end of it for us. But we say these things to identify where we come from. So,
Like in the United States, for
Yes.
example, a lot of this land is originally Native American.
Native
right?
American, yes.
Now, if a group of Native Americans from, I don't know, South America or whatever, they have some lineage over here, and they came to Illinois and started saying, hey, we have a stake in this land. they'll be left off.
Exactly.
Like no one would care. Why? They actually have the original documentation of the migration patterns and everything can establish. Just humor me, and they established the fact that right here, where we're sitting in Chicago, they have a historical claim.
They can dig the archaeology.
They can dig archaeology, and it's fact that every historian's like, they have a point. But does it make a difference? They don't have anything to enforce it with, right?
It's already been conquered. Yeah.
So it doesn't matter to me when I hear this stuff. It's like I didn't mean to like discredit it by saying chatter. What I mean is like right now, effectively, who has
the narrative?
Yeah.
Who has it? Who has the means
Who's
to
the
win?
conquering force? Be straightforward.
Who's the conquering force? But not just that.
That thing.
But how are we gonna overcome this
Achi.
conquering force?
Achi,
Yeah.
the thing here is this. Is that you educate people who have supported that side based on that narrative. You educate them. Look, the protests are not making a difference. The social media has not changed people's hearts and minds. Why? Because they found out the truth. They found out the truth about the Palestinian issue. And this is the thing, is that you slowly change the hearts and minds of the people. If that did not really matter, politicians wouldn't be sucking up to different communities to try to get their votes. So they could get in office and do things they would like to do for them and their friends. So we have to educate these people who have been brainwashed into believing a false narrative that has allowed the bad guy to do all the bad things he's been doing to the Palestinians. And he's only been able to do it because of this thing, that these are God's chosen people, when these are not even the people. These are the people we are commanded in the Bible to bless, support, for them to succeed. If they fail, we're all going to hell.
Yeah.
And this is how they've done it. Look, I've talked about this before, and I'll talk about it again, and I'm on TikTok regularly talking about it. And when I post a little child, if you go to my Facebook, and when I post a little child who's passed on to Allah, or a few children, or a mother, I put Israeli and Arab leaders' war crimes. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I am more enraged, and I am enraged by what Israel is doing, but I understand Islamically that Israel at the end of the day is going to cease to exist. No different than the Crusaders who were there for 500 years. Even some of our silly own people, they say they've been there 100 years and they're not going anywhere. They're too strong. Because you have no faith in Islam, and you have no faith. You don't understand that history tells you the future. So there's a white-looking Palestinian sister who's always on here, has been for the last year that I've been on TikTok.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, dancing and joking and cooking, and she's in Ramallah. She's a scholar on Palestine right now on Facebook, doing lives and talking. You know what she says? That shows you, if you don't know how to talk and argue the Palestinian Islamic issue, keep your mouth shut. She's on there, and some of the Zionists are making comments, and she says, oh, no, I'll tell you, every one of them people on October 7th, may they go all to the highest heaven. Those were Israeli soldiers who were murdering your people. You're praying for them? You've never said anything about Palestine in the last year that I've seen you, about the struggles of you've said something about Palestine. You said something about the knafe, how good it is. You've said something about how good the shawarma is. You said something about how you are now in Ramallah having a ball. You never said nothing about the struggle. Now you want to talk about the struggle. Now all of a sudden, after October 7th, we have a bunch of nobodies trying to pretend they're Palestinian warriors. You know why? Because Hamas has done something so fantastic You ever see the Bear fans? When the Bears are winning, everybody's a Bear fan. When the Bears are losing, everybody, oh man, screw the Bears. They're a bunch of bums. That's these people. That's these people. You have generals. Listen, a brother said something to me that was so profound. He said, Ismail Haniya, a small person, the head of a small group in Gaza, has become a world leader. He has moved the world. Aircraft carriers into the Mediterranean. People sitting around, how do we deal with this? This is why these people have all become warriors for Palestine. It's because it's cool. That's all it is. No different than a lot of other stuff. Hijab has been, it's cool to wear hijab. It's become, I'm a Muslim.
A certain kind of hijab.
No, we don't say all the sisters. We don't say.
Yeah,
I apologize. I don't want to generalize.
I mean
There's
TikTok.
sisters who are truly.
No, we're talking about TikTok,
Yes,
right?
yes.
It's become this trend on TikTok to say, oh, I'm a hijabi in this. I'm a
Yes,
hijabi in
yes,
that,
yes.
right? So I know you're talking about. But I think here's the reality, right? We've said this time and time again. Palestine is a litmus test,
Yes.
right? And while I appreciate the sentiment of those people that want to pick up the mantle for Palestine now
Yes,
when it's
yes.
convenient, hey, I'm not going to judge you, but we see what was going on before.
Exactly.
When you do this now, what that shows us as you've successfully been brainwashed to believe that this conflict started October 7th.
Exactly. And they're sitting apologizing for. I agree with you. And they're apologizing for what happened.
I want to tell you something. I do a lot of internet discussion with people, right? And I'll tell you something. Every time we want to discuss this, the first thing they want to start with in talking to a Muslim, first thing is what?
Condemn.
Do you condemn the action of Hamas?
Yes.
My reaction is this. I'm not discussing anything about condemnation until you first condemn the IDF.
Yes.
Because everything that you want me to condemn Hamas for, the IDF is guilty of by proven documentation. So if you want me to condemn them, then I need you to condemn the IDF in the same token.
Listen, I went to federal court, right? And this is the mind-blowing thing, right? I went to federal court for my case when I was fighting my case. You know how many judges, federal judges, are of the Jewish faith? You know how many prosecutors are from? When you control the judgeship of the land, how many? And listen, we have no problem with Jewish people. Jewish people are our brothers and sisters. Zionism is the issue. But I'm trying to tell you why we were sleeping, they were hard at work. You know how many judges on the Supreme Court are of the Jewish faith? And God, hey, they did their work. At least three of them. How in the networks, in the news, while we're sleeping. Listen, when I came to this country, there was one Mexican or Spanish TV station, Channel 44.
Telemundo, right?
No,
there was no Telemundo. There was no Telemundo.
There was only one Spanish channel, and it was Channel 44. This was when regular TVs, you had Channel 11, Channel 7, Channel 9 with the knobs, or even with there was no cable, none of that. Look how many stations they have now. Look how many stations. What were we doing? Can you imagine if we participated back then? And I didn't know. I'm a small, stupid kid who's growing up with a father who doesn't know religion and is very nationalistic and a communist and stuff like that. But the powers that be, man, because we went to sleep. Even now, do we stick together honestly as a group of people, as even Palestinian or as Arab or as Muslims? Do we stick together? We're fragmented, man. We're fragmented. We have a lot of work to do. And alhamdulillah for social media. You get on social media and you'll find you're on there quite a bit. We're all on there. How many people are fighting for Palestine who are not even Muslim, Arab, or Palestinian? While Palestinian, Arab, and Muslims are on here making fools of themselves. You have brother. I talked to a brother one day. He has a decent following, and I said, "Hey, bro, you know, I got 2 books, man. I got, you know."
I'm sorry.
I got 2 books, man, and they deal with the Palestinian issue and blah, you know, this, you know. And he said, He said, yeah, okay, we'll see. I said, we should follow each other. This was when I first started my TikTok. But he had about 20,000 following. He talks Deen all the time. Boy, every time he see me, he looked the other way, so we don't have that conversation. Then we kind of pinned together, and he said, you know, I don't want you talking about Palestine too much. You know, they'll delete your account. And these are the people these are the people? You want to talk about Deen?
I got something for you guys. So these are Bedouins who work for the IDF.
Yes.
So he apparently helped guard one of the IDF guard stations on the 7th.
So what was happening there?
So he's apparently like a
There
soldier.
are Arab Bedouin soldiers who people are allegedly Muslims that joined for the IDF. Believe it or not, there are a lot of these Bedouins who have been brought and paid for by the Israelis.
And I'll tell you this: when I was growing up back home, when you talk about Negev and the Bedouins from that area, and I'm not talking about all of them, but God forbid we always generalize. We don't generalize. As a Palestinian, I always knew, and I was taught, a lot of these people are traitors. As a little kid, that they were traitors. There was hardly any dealings with them. But see, these are the people. These are the people. And the Gulf people who, not all the Gulf, who are talking about they're putting Israeli flags and stuff like that. These are weak-minded. Their heart is weak. Their mind is weak. They actually look at the worldly stuff that Israel has, and they want to be a part of it because they're ashamed of what they are, and that's what it is. They don't get that Israel is what it is. If you gave the Palestinians the amount of money that the Israelis are given by the United States and Europe, what would the Palestinians have? So it's not. But these people, if you really pay attention and trace it back,
this scumbag.
They fall into that verse where Shaitan is telling Allah, give me respite.
Yeah.
These are all agents of Satan.
Yes, sir.
This guy
I'm talking about
is
the
the
Zionists
biggest
and them.
khabis on the internet.
Yeah.
This
This
guy
guy
right here,
can't stand
this guy is the
Yeah.
biggest khabis.
Yeah, he's
Allah yal'anak. This guy here, listen to him.
يوم رجع السعودية ما بقى شيء ما أعطتكم إياه، حتى دولة أسست لكم دولة، الملك فهد. يوم ريغان يطلب منه تمويل زوار الكونترا قال له وحدة بوحدة أبي دولة لفلسطين، قال له أبشر. ووقع الخطاب دولة لفلسطين، وعلم الملك فهد عرفات إنه حصلنا دولة فلسطينية. هرب عرفات ما شافوه إلا بعد 10 سنين من هالكلام هذا. هرب ما يبي دولة فلسطينية. كلكم ما تبون دولة فلسطينية لأن أساسا ما لكم قضية ولا لكم دولة ولا لكم أرض. هذه أرض إسرائيل بالقرى، وأنتم شتات رومان ملفقين، مغول وتركمان وشركس وأرمن وغجر، ما لكم حق بفلسطين. فلسطين هذه دولة إسرائيلية لبني إسرائيل. وبني إسرائيل.
Shameful.
No,
But
but
see-
what I'm thinking is, look, here's the problem, right? You look at Saudi today, right? You can make the same argument. You don't have a country.
Yes.
You were given to you by the Britain. You're
That's
full
what I
of
just said earlier.
Yemeni. You're full of Bukhari. You're full of Nigerian. You're full of Somali. You're full of any other people. You're full of the same people.
Look at Nasr al-Din al-Albani, rahimahullah. He was Albanian. He was the biggest
I'm
scholar
saying-
in Islam. So
But this point that he makes, look, what we're trying to say, highlight is that these kinds of individuals, two reasons why they exist. Number one, they don't want to deal with the hard question.
Exactly.
They don't want to sacrifice their luxury for
Yes.
what's happening. Number two, what they've done is they've taken a petty dispute they had with maybe one Palestinian in his neighborhood, right? And they've made it a whole issue for everybody else. This is what I've seen this happen. People will say, "Oh, I don't like this Palestinian. All of them are like this. All of them are like that."
Yes.
Right? And this is the issue. Like were willing. And when I see this, I think of that hadith where we were talking about an najd min qarn ash-shaytan. I think of this. I don't know if it's true of the proper application to it, but I can't help but think that when I see these people al-Arabu ashaddu nifaqan wa kufra of these kufra wa nifaqan, yes, this ayah where it talks about how there will be the most in their disbelief and their nifaq and their hypocrisy, because the minute somebody questions them with the truth, and the minute somebody brings something to them, what is their response? How do they respond to this? And that's why I say Palestine itself is a litmus test for people.
Yeah,
The condition of a sham, Allah is separating from the people who truly believe and truly have this, who are part of the ummah, versus the ones who are not part of this ummah.
Not only that, bro, look, there's two things I want to mention. The first thing is tawakkul, right? The people who were supporting Palestine all along were looked at as a weak people, the people who are archaic, the people who don't know how to side with power. Look, a very elementary level surah. Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about ashab al-fil? Alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashab al-fil, right? Haven't you seen what Allah has done with the people of the elephants, right? Alam yaj'al kaydahum fi tadlil wa arsala alayhim tayran ababil tarmihim bi hijaratin min sijil. Look, why is Allah saying this?
Bro,
He's saying
I've
this
been
to let
reciting
them,
that surah this whole time.
bro,
For the
this
past
surah
3
is
weeks,
so relevant to here.
the past 3 weeks, I've been reciting it in almost every prayer.
Dude, you know why?
Yeah.
This surah is so relevant to
Yes.
now because it comes from the help. Everyone thought that the elephants were going to just come and destroy everything. And Allah didn't even use the people. He used what would be the most antithetic thing to this elephant, which is a bird which nobody even knew existed.
Yeah.
And it's just pelting them down with these pebbles that are made of coal that are heating pebbles or whatever the case is, right? But the help comes from everything that we do. We put our trust in Allah.
Exactly.
And once we do everything, like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, they did everything in the hijrah. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam even used his guide, his tour guide was a non-Muslim. He used him because he was the best. He covered the tracks. He had the lambs come and his brother-in-law to come, or his servant to come and trail over their footsteps, so everything would be taken care of. And even then, they're still at the mouth of the cave. That's why he says to Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, when he says la tahzan, he didn't say la takhaf, he didn't say don't fear. He said la tahzan, meaning that this despair. Look, we've done everything we could. Now the rest is up to Allah.
Exactly.
So all of that planning that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did as a prophet, the planning takes place by the spider web and the birds, right? Allah uses the weakest of things. Even though Allah in the Quran says the weakest of houses is the house of the Ankabut. But Allah uses that to people who are like, we cannot let Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam Abu Bakr go to Medina. We're going to give up everything. We're going to give up everything that we have and everything that we've built ourselves up to, that we have to capture them dead or alive. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Bakr, they took all the means that they had available from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah.
Once they put in that work, Allah showed them this miraculous thing of, look, even if they look down, Abu Bakr saying, even if they just look down, they'll see us. Right? The problem with us is, and why Surah Al-Fil is so important, is Allah is teaching us, don't have iman in the means, have iman in the creator of the means.
Exactly.
When we give, and that's why this is very relevant to Palestine, nobody thought that Palestine would change. Dude, they just thought they'd be able to pillage through and everyone forgot. What it did was it brought up, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought up all of this filth, pushed it to the side for us, and let everybody see what's happening. Those who don't want to believe after this, Allah protect them or Allah save them, because there's no saving them after this.
No, there isn't. And the thing is this: if you say you are a Muslim and you believe in Islam, yeah, I hear you talking like this little weak old lady about what you're seeing happen when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his messengers say that those babies, those children will intercede. They will be the key for their parents to get into Jannah.
Allahu Akbar.
They'll be the key for the parents to get into Jannah, the parents who have grown and have sayyi'at. They will be the key for them to get into Jannah. And you see some stuff and you get, somebody posted something on this group I'm with, this father's group, and the one brother said, hey, before you post stuff, put warning so we don't show our brothers and sisters as arwa. These were, and who posted this? Hamas was charging tanks. You're showing them the people who charge tanks would not be on the ground begging naked. Those were Hamas. This is civilians in the West Bank. Two different places, but you understand the logic. And the thing with me, hey, bro, listen, let me tell you something. Keep your piousness right now. It's not time for you to put that pretend piousness. You're worried about his arwa. Babies are being slaughtered and being turned into hamburger meat in Gaza. But the stuff that we say, our thinking,
Defeated,
our
very
logic
defeated.
is exactly.
Very
And the
defeated.
thing with this is this: even, and may Allah forbid, and it's not going to happen, and Allah knows best. I have to say that, and inshallah, it would never happen because we're directed to say all these things. Even if Gaza was wiped, another part of Palestine will rise.
It already
And in
has. West
20
Bank.
years, and in 20 years, I mean, a small city.
Yeah.
20 years, it'll be the same as this.
Yeah.
Listen, did Hamas? When did they start?
87.
Okay. Was there a struggle before 87?
Yes.
There'll be a struggle after.
Exactly.
It's
And that's
not
what they
gonna
don't
change that.
But the
And-
struggle now.
And I just want to mention this one thing because he mentioned the West Bank, and this is very key too. A lot of people, the same people, will tell you, if Hamas didn't do this, the people wouldn't be dying, and Hamas did this to their own people, right? Okay. Hey, look. Then what did the West Bank people do to the Israelis? They're not Hamas
No.
by affiliation, right? What are
What-
they? They're Fatah, right?
Yeah.
But the same evil people that hate the people in Gaza took
Hey.
their same hatred, walked over into
And had been doing it
Yes,
before this happened.
Of course.
Yeah.
And they're burning, lighting children in the car alive.
Yes.
No, even now they've been handing out rifles.
Yes.
to
I know.
settlers. So
Well,
now
you
so
see,
th-
the U.S. stopped sending them those rifles. They're handing, but they don't really need to, because they all have rifles. When I was back home, ordinary Israelis, because there's really out of his mouth, Israeli civilians, you have no clue what the Palestinian issue is, because there is no Israeli civilians. Every Israeli has to serve, unless it's a part of the religious ones who don't want a part of the fight, not the Torah ones that stand for Palestine. There's also another group that does not want to fight according religiously. But vast majority of Israelis spend 3 years in the military, full active duty, and then for the rest of their lives they are on reserve. They have weapons that are military grade at home, M16s, and even SAW machine guns that the United States makes. They have those at home and ready to fight at any given
I was just
moment.
reading these recent
So there
reports.
is no civilians per se.
And I just want you to know also, the kibbutz is just a code name for
A military
occupied
outpost,
land.
yes.
Right? They physically came in under the protection of the IDF, let settlers move in
illegally.
in the guise of farmers. But make no mistake, all of those farm areas or farmsteads are armed.
yes.
All of them are.
All of them.
All of them are armed.
They're
They
actually
give them
military
weapons.
outposts.
Yes.
That's all they are. And they
lot-
scatter them everywhere and put these guys in there. They give them food. They don't have to work. They give them alcohol so they could party and have a good old time. And they give them all the weapons they want. And they just say, every now and then fire some rounds that way.
They do.
And that's how
Target
that's
practice.
exactly, and that's how they do. So for a Palestinian, for this so-called Palestinian woman, to be on there and to respond to a comment on her live and say, oh, yeah, all the people that died on October 7th, may they go to the highest heaven. About the Israeli ones. May they go to the highest. That's how these people are lost. They haven't a clue.
It's defeated, man. That's
And
what
the
it is.
same thing. This is how Iran and its proxies have taken over the Middle East. They've conquered Damascus. They've conquered Beirut. They've conquered Sana'a. They've conquered Baghdad. There's reports, and I hate to get back, but we have to, man. Listen, any Muslim on here that speaks Arabic, I suggest and I encourage you to go to YouTube and watch Sheikh Rami Isa and
course.
Sheikh Walid Ismail
Ismail, yeah.
and see what the Shia truly believe.
Just go to
when
my
you
channel.
Say,
The Sunni, it's in the English. Sunni Discourse.
Oh,
Sunni Discourse. You go there.
okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Just
Yeah,
go
I'm
to
gonna
Sunni
look into
Discourse.
it, man.
We translate all the stuff into English and
Man,
we put
you
it
need
out there.
Are you translating Rami Isa, Sheikh Rami Isa?
Well, we have some of that stuff, and Sheikh Uthman al-Khamith, like we have all the stuff.
Man, that'd be great. See, you should talk about that right now. So if anybody's watching, so they could understand. So when the next time you say, "Oh, they're just like us," they believe, "Oh, we believe." One brother on a thread that I'm a part of says. Somebody says something about the Shia, and he says, "Oh, they just believe the only difference between us and them is that we say Ameen out loud and they don't say Ameen." And I said, I couldn't believe he said that. I could not believe he said that.
Listen,
and this is a brother these are educated people, man. These are not people who are not educated.
Let me show you how deluded this is. This is something simple to show you the discontempt for Ahl Sunnah. When they say, "Oh, we're waiting for Al-Mahdi," Al-Hujjatul Mahdi, right? They beat their heads, right? They do stuff, right?
It's kind of cute.
And all this.
And what they believe, though, that Al-Mahdi is going to come out and he's going to this is a Mahdi who's like Freddy Krueger. He's going to come out. He's going to resurrect Abu Bakr and Umar.
And
I already know and he's going to kill them again. And then kill 30,000 Arabs.
And whip them.
Here's another part. Not even just them. They even have a problem with Banu Shayba. Why? Because Banu Shayba has the key to the Kaaba. So they're going to say, okay, he's going to go to Banu Shayba, cut off their hands and their legs and dangle it around the Kaaba and make tawaf. This is the Mahdi they're talking about.
All right. Let's focus on.
Let me reel something. Can I reel something?
Because we have the topic that was actually on the title of the show.
Yes.
So we really want to focus on, at least for now, the reports that are coming out. This is NBC News, by the way. This isn't some conspiracy website or people always want to say, this is something weird, but
like it's some hocus pocus.
There has been documents that have been coming out of Israel, that leaked documents and memos, where the Zionist entity has forged up or come up with this idea to send Gaza, the people of Gaza, into Egypt. And as we've been talking about, this is something that this is not a new idea. This is something that they've been planning on from the beginning. Why I've been saying that it's not about whether Hamas is good or bad. They're using this as a reason to explain. First, they frame Hamas as a really bad, scary baby beheaders, okay? And then they say, oh, because we can't live with these people, the world opinion will be content with us shipping all of Gaza into the Sinai Desert. And I want people to understand that, because there's this idea that, Egypt and Jordan, they have this ghira over Palestine, that this is the reason why they have these borders blocked for Palestinians not to come into their country and live over there, is because they want to protect Palestine. And I think that's a load of crap. You don't understand how these people are operating. They don't think like a good person, a good human being like you and I. They want cleanse. They want Egypt and Jordan or anyone else who's willing to take them in. They want something from Israel, because Israel's a really rich nation. They're like, so apparently the plan is you saw
the thing about Israel paying.
Yeah, they're going to pay off the world, the
IMF.
Yeah.
No, not only that.
All the IMF debt, which is about
that's
$20 billion.
Only one part. That's only one part. They're willing. Well, they did a study, not even the Sinai. They want to push them further. And they say, hey, you have these empty buildings here. We're going to pay you for each citizen that says that for each resident that comes there.
The good thing.
We're going to pay you. And here's the other thing too. Keep in mind also, Egypt and Jordan do not have control of their border. They may have a guard who's just lifting the gate and closing the gate, right? Like, the Bawab sitting there, right? But they can't have any heavy artillery there. What country can guard its border if it can't have any machinery there?
Why is it like that?
Because Israel has that deal with them. After 67, they said, listen, we are going to not only monitor and control, but we want a list of every person coming in and out, and we have to give approval of anyone or anything coming in and out of these borders. They don't have control of them. They can't let anybody in and out of these borders. So the idea here is this: before we get into the issue here, there's a reason why they want to move them. It's also because if you go back to the 1950s, there's something called the Ben Gurion Canal.
Exactly.
Okay? This is something that they wanted to do. They wanted to link the Mediterranean Sea to the Gulf of Aqaba, effectively bypassing the Suez Canal.
Suez Canal.
Why?
Exactly.
Because during the time in war, Egypt had shut down the canal, and that caused severe economic blockade on the Israeli economy, right? And it's estimated today that about $90 billion a year worth of trade goes through the Suez Canal. But check this out. It's not just some kind of hocus pocus idea. The U.S. government actually did a feasibility study on this. They actually proposed using 300 underground nukes to carve through the Negev.
Wow.
In order to do this. And the documents were declassified in 1991. This is going back to like 1964, 1965. They actually have...
When it was really a hot topic back then.
They
too.
actually have an American, what they call a respite center for troops in the Negev. It's really a base. Okay, and so what they're trying to do is they're trying to effectively bypass the Suez Canal, and they cannot have it operate a canal like this if you have Gazans who are right there who are a resistance force against you. What company is going to want to move?
That's just one part. Really the biggest part is to do another Nakba, and that is to ethnically cleanse the land, push the Palestinians out of Palestine. So you'll have the land as Palestine. The land is not shaking itself. The rocks don't throw themselves at the people. The dirt don't fly in their faces. So the human is gone. But the good thing is that many other people in Gaza are saying we're not leaving.
Yeah. No, why should they?
We're not leaving, and they should not. And they should not. I talk about it in my book. I say it was amazing how it's so easy for Palestinians to be able to migrate to Europe and the U.S. How?
Now they're banning.
When people,
how
effective
is that ban that's going to be from Palestinians?
Look what happened to him.
It's nonsense.
They were
It's
trying to. It was easy for him. He was supposed to be deported.
Yes.
No, what's recently coming up in the news.
That's from the far right.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. That.
But how
it's
is
not going to happen.
First of all, Israel would object to it because they want to get rid of us. But so. That's how easy is it to come to the United States, like for a Palestinian in Europe, and bring them, we'll take them here, give them a visa. Oh, you're an American citizen. Oh, now you're a German and a Italian and whatever it is. Although you're Palestinian, but no problem, because they want to cleanse the land.
No,
they want to cleanse the land of the Palestinians, and that's the situation. That's the push out. But I tell you this: I sit here, right here, and I tell you this. The Palestinian issue is not going anywhere. If anything and anyone is going, it's going to be those Zionists and their occupation. Look at them. Nobody talks about it because they hide it. Ben Gurion Airport can't keep up with the influx of people flying out of there, rushing to get out of there. You seen the videos of them trying to beat soldiers to get on the bus to go to the border, and they're saying, I don't want to go to the border. He said, those people love dying. We love living.
Yeah.
So it's not going anywhere.
I saw a funny video on TikTok for this hardcore Zionist, and you know how they can do AI regenerations, right? So they did an AI regeneration of Golda Meir.
Yeah.
Right? And she's like begging people, Israelis, to not leave the country. This is your service to stay in the country. Don't abandon the land that we fought hard for. If you leave, they will win. Like basically, they put this whole speech together in her animated voice, right, in her face. But they're going to these levels because what he's mentioning is that people are. There's been a problem for Israel that there's a mass exodus out of Israel. I mean, it's not just because of the safety. Economically, it's not viable for them, right? And it's very expensive for them to live there. So more people are leaving than emigrating to Israel.
Exactly.
They're happy to come out there and give you citizenship. All these people who are in America and Australia and the UK who are Zionists, we love Israel, we stand by, like Ben Shapiro, like autistic retard. When you talk about him, right?
He
like,
really got...
I mean, none of those people will ever go live in Israel. They will maintain their life in America, even though they will parrot the idea that Israel needs to exist because why? There's no safe place for Jews anywhere in the world, right? But yet they find safety in America, in Australia, in the UK, in many other places around the world, Germany, around the world. They find safety there, but it is an excuse to keep pumping this idea that Israel needs money, Israel needs defense, we're unsafe, we don't have this. And to be honest, the reality is this: the most unsafest place for Jews in the world is Israel.
But speaking of narrative, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about narrative. If we can reel this back in, do you guys believe, based on what people are saying after Blinken's visit, that Israel had just gone completely rogue, and they're not listening to anything America has to say? But how? I'm just trying to make sense of that a little bit.
See, okay, so Israel can go rogue, can do whatever it wants, and it has a blank check with America and its European allies, because you have to guys understand. Like, I understand all the reasons why the conservatives in America and stuff support Israel,
but
these guys in the political level, they don't look at things like that.
No, they don't.
They just use those people as support because
exactly. But the biggest part is the one you're alluding to, and I know where you're going, and you're absolutely right. They control all the politicians and the governments around the world, plain and simple.
No. Well, 1 second. One of the fundamental ideas within Europe and the United States is that we need Israel, one of our outposts in the Middle East. We need that guard.
Where Biden says if there wasn't one, we would create one.
Not just because of that. It's a beacon for Western ideas to act as a leverage on the rest of the East. One of the ideas of Herzl was when he was forming this idea of Zionism was that we're going to be establishing a state that will take all your values of democracy and civility and establish a state that represents all of your ideas of America and Europe in the brutal, savage region of this of the Orient, what they call of the corner of the Orient, where you guys don't want to be involved in, but we act as your outpost over there.
Well, they have a foothold there.
The foothold, but this is my question, though.
Yeah.
So since that part, thank you for that. But now this part is America in this situation now? It's just being humiliated because of Israel's actions, and is it safe to say that America is in a limbo right now because Israel's humiliating the hell out of America, making America look really bad now? Because they're very concerned about PR. All these Americans are like talking and all this stuff on social media about America. What have we been giving our tax dollars to? What? We don't want to defend. I don't know what country it was that was leaving to give artillery to Israel, and all the people were hanging onto the ship in the boats. I don't know what that was. So all of this craziness because of America's little baby. So America, am I safe? Am I right in thinking that America is being humiliated by this? And what are they going to do after this? Because they're losing. America knows Israel's losing the PR war, and if Israel loses the PR war, America loses the PR war.
So America can say, or they're willing to look silly, or like they don't have. It doesn't matter to them because they politically, Israel is satisfying this greater objective of theirs of having this outpost, right? So in effect, it doesn't. The optics don't matter to them. It not completely. They do want to create a leverage against Israel itself by allowing some freedom in the media, where there's enough public outcry against what they're doing. So on one hand, so they speak out of both sides of their mouth. One will be, we support Israel and its right to self-defense. You hear that all the time, right?
Course, yeah.
Right? And then the second thing, but they control that through another arm, the media. So, they'll give them that blank check, but then they'll say, media, okay, now turn up the volume against Israel to get them to come. So, when you saw Wolf Blitzer earlier this week, going up against and challenging the idea of bombing.
Who used to work for the AIPAC,
He used to work for he's completely, bought and paid for Zionism. But within Zionism, there's so many different fractions. Within the Israeli society right now, it's incredibly divided. They're at each other's throats.
Yeah. Like there are Zionists who are
there's even calls for that there may be civil war within them.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is.
I want to know Zionists also. There's a generation of Zionists that have grown up in Israel that don't subscribe to a more radical version of Zionism. They will say, you know what, we're here, I'm here. I was born here, third generation. I want to live here. I want my kids to grow. Palestinians are there. I want that. We have to live in peace, right? But their idea of Zionism is that, okay, we have to maintain our security and our sovereignty, right? They're not really necessarily worried about exiling. They don't want to be brutal towards the Palestinians. They believe that's a right-wing thing. They believe that that's what Nazi Germany did. So there's a new breed of Zionism that's coming up within the young people in Israel that don't necessarily believe with this right-wing agenda, and they're caught in this, and they're mainly in Israel, right? They're a left wing of Israel. Okay, and so that group has been vehemently opposed to Bibi Netanyahu and the Likud party. The Likud party is despised by these liberals to the point where these liberals who make the money, because a lot of the Orthodox,
that's why Harris is throwing them under the bus.
A lot of the Orthodox and conservatives are people who don't earn a lot of money. I mean, in comparison to the liberal ones, right? And so there's they're heavily divided in that sense. They're heavily divided over, do we go to war? Do we accept the Palestinians? Do we create a state? Do we just build a giant wall? Do we want a liberal policy? They don't know what they want. Do we become a religious state? Do we become whatever it is? They are divided on all these different lines. Especially now, the biggest one has been the justice overhaul. They feel like at the right wing it's coming in, which is what they view as a right wing type of organization that appeals to the radical Orthodox, right, who are Zionists, and they feel like they're trying to make Israel more repressive, right, and more aggressive against in appealing to the right wing, and so they are pushing against it heavily. Right now, as we speak, over 55% of Israelis currently think that Netanyahu should resign. That's how divided the country is.
Actually, probably more than that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're reporting, right? So imagine, usually at a time of war in that place, usually they tend to unite, right? Especially like, for example, whenever like Hamas and then we're going to make a unity thing, attack happens and the country unites. Or when Isaac Rabin, whatever it was, or was about to do something, attack happened, right? They just unite the people, right? Because tragedy and calamity unites people. This has been the opposite effect.
Exactly.
So as far as the West Bank is concerned, the skirmishes now that are occurring in West Bank, and they're afraid of another Gaza occurring in West Bank. How legitimate is that?
Well, I'll tell you what. These people are vicious in the sense that, oh yeah, this is what we're going to do. We can't put hands on. We could drop bombs on children and women and all that, but we can't really put hands on them. But we know where we could get hands on. Right to the West Bank. So they're taking out their frustration on a physical body on the people in the West Bank, and any Palestinian they could get their hands on. And that's what's happening in the West Bank.
And Orthodox Jew who's against...
Exactly. But
there
mainly...
are videos of them being like... Honestly, I saw a video that maybe, even though he was Yehudi, if I saw that soldier in real life, I would beat the living shit out of him.
Yeah. That made me pretty angry too.
Yeah. So that's...
You could tell how helpless and feeble that dude was.
Yeah, he was a frail Jewish man that was just standing there.
That dude was big. I was like, shame on you, bro.
Exactly. And he's like slapping him around. And this is just for what? Holding a Palestinian flag?
And since we talk about Hamas in the West Bank, when everything happened in Gaza and they try to renege on Hamas winning the elections, and we're going to take it, and finally Hamas just took it over, and that clashes happened between them and Arafat's guys, and whoever ran away, and whoever stayed. From that day to this day, the PA has been locking up and torturing and possibly killing Hamas people in the West Bank. So they've been knocking off Hamas guys, and some taking them and giving them to Israel, working in conjunction with them. So when you say there's no Hamas in the West Bank, they're not active, they're not out in the thing where they're demonstrating their affiliation, but it's known who they are. And a lot of them, and anybody with any influence, has been imprisoned, tortured, and so on.
No, but it shows you, even though the PA cozied up to Israel and the Zionists, they're still attacking their innocents. They're still killing their children. Whatever they do, it's not enough.
They're guilty of a crime. They're Palestinian.
Of course. So that's what I'm saying. There's no two-state solution.
No, there never will be a two-state solution.
The West Bank cozied up so much.
Not the West Bank, but the PA. The PA. But the PA are traitors. I'm not scared to say it. Some people stand up. They're traitors, man. How can you say anything other than that? They're hated, they're despised by anybody who is good. And they're corruptors. Anybody who is on that fence where he could fall into corruption or he could go straight, they make sure they corrupt him and they give him what he wants to be a part of their corruption. Where they spend most of it, it's crazy. But the stuff, they go party where? In Tel Aviv. They go hang out where? In Tel Aviv. These PA people, they've been exposed.
Yeah, they bring these filthy people to Ramallah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They have casinos. And, you know, it's sad to say there's prostitution in Ramallah at one point all over.
Mm-hmm.
For the Zionist Israelis to come over there and use their women. That's how low they've gotten. And then you have on TikTok, look at Ramallah, look how beautiful it is. We have Starbucks here.
Yeah. So, that's some of the stuff. But, at the end of the day, the weak will be weak and the strong will be strong. And Zionism and the so-called state of Israel will cease to exist, just like the Crusaders of past.
I think one thing we can say, though, is that certainly
Inshallah.
that talking about these things, bringing attention to
Keeping it alive.
I know it gets boring, guys, for you guys. For some people out there, it gets boring for you. And you think, oh, again, Palestine. But that's what needs to happen.
No, one of the
because
things,
this is a battle of the hearts and mind. When you talk about this, every person that talks about this, every tweet that you put out there is like a bullet in your ammunition.
Of course.
It's a bullet that you're firing into a war of propaganda. And you better target that. Every time you tweet, if you tweet about something stupid like Kanafa, you're wasting ammunition.
yeah.
That's the bottom line.
One of the fundamental things that, at least when the situations like this happen, I go back to moments in my life where, what is Allah trying to teach me? And this is one of these moments where, if we are in the favor of Allah, He's trying to teach us something.
Exactly.
What are we learning about the world? It's you can get caught up into the history and all the different debates back and forth about who has a rightful claim to this land, and there's all these debates happening everywhere, and looking at all the death and carnage that's happening. But there's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to teach us, and we have to learn from it. And ultimately, when you see the failure of the international community, that all their laws and stuff like that, they're completely toothless. They're self-serving laws. They use it when they need it, when they need to further an economic interest, right? The American justice comes when it serves their interests. When they want to remove Saddam Hussein, they do it with the intention they want oil, but they'll parade to the world how they removed whatever dictator, right? And so, if we as a ummah can get a little bit wiser, where we can get a bit smarter politically, we understand how they operate. All the letter writing campaigns that you've done, nothing. It's just paperweight. You wasted 5 seconds of your signature on that paper where you sent it to some congressman who didn't care about it at all. It didn't mean anything to them.
Toilet paper.
And they respond back saying that we support Israel.
Exactly.
That's how brazen the reply back from your congressman was, where they said, October 7th was terrible, blah, blah, blah. We support Israel. And they couldn't care what you thought about it.
Remember at the press conference, that guy was like at the White House, stop it. We're not talking about ceasefire. There's no discussion about ceasefire.
Right.
He's basically told you, shut up. Like, we're not. It's off the table. There's no ceasefire.
To the point where you see some of the most liberal people that you like Bernie Sanders, who can't call for ceasefire.
Yeah.
Now you see the extent of their reach, to what levels of the media, of government, and everything that they have their tentacles into. It's because they know in their heart, guys like Bernie Sanders know that what's happening is terribly wrong, but they can't say anything about it.
Of course.
Now, what's happening as well with all the past 10, 20 years of, them Muslim leaders in our community who told us to ally with the left, that, the left will fight for us, they'll fight for Palestine. What was that? So we've been lied to. We have to learn from this stuff. This is what I'm trying to talk to people about. That we don't learn. We keep falling in the same problem where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to teach us, like, hey, they don't do anything for you. You keep on seeking their justice and they're not doing crap for you. But you keep going to them. You keep begging to them, oh, Blinken, do this, Biden, do this, international community, United Nations, the goddamn United Nations head of the Human Rights Commission, he resigned this past week.
Yes.
And but we keep going back to them, oh, you're going to do something. They're not. Well, get it through your head. They're not going to do it.
Exactly.
Now, go to your Muslim leaders. Oh, we can't do that. Our Muslim leaders, how am I going to go do business over there if I direct my community to start putting pressure on them?
Yeah.
Well, that God forbid, I'm not able to do a lecture over there.
Yeah.
You know, so.
But see,
And I need to
who's that
lecture.
benefiting?
Yeah, I need to lecture because they need me.
They need me. The people over there.
Yeah,
Pakistan,
there'll be lost sheep
people need me.
without me if I don't lecture there.
No politics involved in my stream.
Let me say
on my medium.
Yeah,
I built 500,000 million followers. I can't put pressure on.
You know what I can tell these people? Just trust me. Stop hiding it. Just say the IDF are terrorists. It'll feel better when you say it. Like honestly, it'll just feel so much better. You're saying everything but that, right? You're saying, oh, the Palestinians are suffering. This is a war crime. This is happening. Just say it. The IDF are terrorists. The quicker you say it, the easier you solve the problem. The quicker you feel better about it.
I'll tell you.
Well, fundamentally, even among our Muslim leaders, they'll say IDF are terrorists and stuff like that.
No, I'm
They
talking
don't care.
politicians.
Oh, you're
the
talking about
politicians, U.S. politicians, because some of them are wanting to say something, but they're saying everything but what needs to be said.
Well, of course, they were like we said, like they know that they can't even say ceasefire, which is a really mild thing to ask for. You know, we don't want war. Who doesn't want war? That's such an easy thing to say.
Stating the obvious, right?
It's like the most easiest thing to say. There should be, cooler heads should prevail. None of that. This is how brazen your lives are so cheap to them. Oh. They're killing your children as if they're nothing. They're not even human. 3,500 children, man. What the hell? How are we thinking this is okay? Yeah. Because we allow them to. We
you know what's crazy? I always tell them,
because you know what? We're not as civilized as you. You are our masters, and we think that your justice is better than our justice.
Yes.
And fundamentally, when it comes down to it, our mentality, when you look at our situation, we think about them as greater. Their justice is better than us.
Exactly.
Their lifestyle is better than us. This wealth is better than us. And we have this inferiority.
And they know what's better for us better than ourselves.
Yeah.
I tell you what I do. What I do is I constantly bombard my social media with instead of reaching out to these politicians to say, hey man, come on, tell them to stop. Hey, you have a humanitarian obligation to say stop. Why are you supporting Israel? Like, the stupidest questions. My thing is I bombard my friends who are predominantly Americans with statements from Netanyahu, from things that expose who really runs this country and who runs this government and who controls this government. My whole page is boom, 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 boom. Because where you want to make a difference is to try in an attempt, and I know it's one person, but one person hits the other people. Now, people from 5, 6, 7 years ago, when I started dealing with these people on this particular subject, their attitude has changed. Even I have a friend, he's a European American, staunch, American. He's not left, he's right. He says, hey man, I just want you to know that my eyes are wide open right now.
Yep.
And when you start to show them, these are people who are hardcore Americans, I love this country, and then they're seeing, dude, all that stuff you're supporting, that's not American.
Yep.
That's actually un-American. And the people you're talking about are representing you, they're not representing you. And I don't say it to them. I let the posts say it to them.
You know what's
and
crazy?
This is how you get those
Yep.
out of office or to listen.
Yeah. You know what's really crazy though? There's this one guy I've been trying to make, I talk to him, make da'wah to. He's an Arabi, a Palestinian guy who's a mulhid, okay? And he's always, we're talking about, but he's always taking a stand that, oh yeah, look, what have the Arab world done? Israel is so dominant. You guys are stupid. Israel. Typical stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
But even him in this conflict now, he's like, man, I can't believe
The savagery.
Yeah, the savagery, and even me as an atheist can see through this stuff.
You know,
And it's not, and he's like, listen, I was wrong about this stuff. And I'm not saying he's going to become, inshallah, becomes Muslim
No.
again. But what I'm saying, though, is
Yeah.
that this is what I was saying. And I was thinking about how do we make practical solutions, right? And one is what you're talking about, right? But I think one thing that has been instrumental in the Zionist ability to control the American public is media.
Exactly.
Is the narrative, right?
Yes.
And I think we should find like to be honest, when I tweet out like I'm used to before I stopped tweeting out gruesome stuff, but I tag like senators and I tag like leaders like Justin Trudeau. I tag like Biden. I'm like, hey, you cool with this? You cool with this? Like, and you let them know. You put it on there and you keep bombarding them and people out there who make this argument. And the other thing I think that should happen is this. This is so honestly, the argument they make about why the IDF is bombing civilians is comical. It's tragic, but it's comical at the same time. Imagine like it feels like a skit out of Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
You know what I feel like doing? Like imagine like I was reading this article. Like one reason why IDF doesn't go down and get Hamas out because these tunnels are very small and they can get vertigo in these tunnels. And I'm like, vertigo? Really? Like this is what you're worried about? Soldiers? And then but I had this dream. Maybe we can do if there's any film producer out there, I want to do this. Like honestly, it's in my head right now. It came to me, and this is what I want to do. I want to have like a underbelly films with like a dark what do you call like a spotlight on somebody, and then like I want a guy with an IDF uniform on, right? And he's talking about how horrible it is, how bad this enemy is, and all the terrorists they have to face, and be like, and then eventually lead him like, yeah, man. These babies, their diapers, they're so dirty. We couldn't deal with them. We have to take them out. Like, just mock them because it's so stupid that you think that babies deserve to die. Like, it's laughable that you think that you have to use all this military power for aircraft carriers, on ground support, drones, Iron Dome, Iron Laser, Iron whatever. Right, and to take out babies.
That's why showing who they are.
Yeah, but I'm saying that this should be mocked. This is your military. This is the mightiest military in the world who's fearing babies. They will argue the potential generational in the future is going to be a problem to us, so we have to take them out. They're terrified of babies.
Yeah,
if that is not, and I think people should mock them. Mock them for being cowards. Mock them for being stupid. Mock them for their inadequacies. A ragtag militia is gathering the world around it, and for 3 weeks you've been bombing it, and you haven't gained an inch of that land.
Yeah. But let's make sure we bring this back so we're right on point with it. They are bombing babies and women because they don't want those babies to grow up to be a part of that same struggle. Their politicians, their rabbis have said we need to kill them young because they asked them, they said, well, babies being killed. He said, well, it's better to kill them now than for them to grow up and become fighters against us where there's a problem where we have a much more hard time dealing with them then. So let's not forget that this is not just a mistake. This is intentional genocide. These are war criminals. These are genocidal maniacs. These people are not even human, and they are cowards. And that's the bottom line. Women give birth to babies, kill them. Babies have been given birth to, kill them before they grow up.
You know what? I that message is important, but I would rather hear it from the horse's mouth.
But
I sent Sim something, and while he's queuing this up, okay, keep in mind, set the backdrop for this. This is a Israeli rabbi sitting in Israel on TikTok Live with thousands of people watching him. And he's able to say these things about innocent people and children. Think about that for a moment. You have a person, and you guys are going to hear it with your own ears, on TikTok that are live calling for the genocide of babies because they feel like that their upbringing is not suitable to their standards, so it's better off to kill them. They're advocating the killing and murdering of babies. Imagine if someone else did that. all these so-called conservatives who are pro-life, they're against abortion. Oh, we don't want to kill babies. We love babies. We love all the babies. But yet you embrace a Zionist mentality that allows you to basically kill children. Can you? Yeah. Go ahead and I want you to hear. I want you to hear this for yourself, guys.
You may think you're being merciful to a child, but you're not being merciful to the child. You're being vicious to the ultimate victim that this child will grow up and kill. Because the ideology that child will grow up with is even worse than the ideology of his father. Hence the reason why the Torah in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 20, verse 16, says, rules of war, Lo techaye kol neshama, do not allow anyone to remain alive. Nothing. No mercy. Furthermore, the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 25, verse 19, Macho et zecher Amalek, completely erase any memory of Amalek, which means men, women, and children, the Torah says, do not have the right to exist.
And there's more to that video of other rabbis and politicians saying the same thing. And this is my point exactly. The other stuff you hear is a facade, just a cover-up. This is the idea. This is the truth. This is how they're doing it, and they're doing it on purpose, not by mistake, not by accident. They intend to do
Filthy,
it.
man. Filthy. Weak.
And fundamentally, we are Muslim leaders all around the world, Arab, non-Arab, they're all Muslims who all have an obligation to do something, and they're not doing it. And we have to direct our thought that way, because fundamentally we've seen, as I just mentioned, the international community failing, the Americans and the Europeans. No one cares. The Russians, the Iran, Hezbollah. You're looking everywhere. The reason why Hamas is all alone over there is because Allah wants them to be all alone.
Exactly.
No, none of their foreign influence.
Absolutely.
They're felt to corrupt what's happening in Gaza.
Well, here, didn't the Jews offer Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam assistance to fight with him against Quraysh? Did he take it? He didn't take it. And some of these people who you are looking for to help these people are just as filthy as that group. Even that group is probably cleaner than a lot of these people.
Yeah, because they were munafiq.
Exactly. Exactly.
These are munafiqeen who are saying, yeah, we're going to help you.
And
but at the same time, they're going to come and stab you in the back.
Exactly. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set them by themselves because they need to be by themselves. They don't need none of that filth mixed in, because they'll all fail. But Allah is we have the whole roadmap, but we don't want to accept it. We want to accept our own roadmap, because what we think will get us, or make us victorious, is different than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says will make us victorious. And we want to rebel against that, because obviously in our arrogance and our simple minds, I'm telling you, you have people who are doctors, who are educators, who are engineers, who say some of the dumbest stuff when it comes to these things. You know why? Because they're so arrogant. They think they are educated enough to know, and we are civilized. We don't need these things. I know some of this stuff, and I know as long as I pray and I fast and I give zakah and I go to Hajj and things like that, we're all good. No, you're not all good. You're missing a whole lot.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, Zionists, just one last thing. I'm sorry. Look, just the Zionists are going to do what they're supposed to do, which is evil.
Exactly.
Our I don't know about you guys, my main issue and contention is with these individuals that are surrounding this tiny piece of land that just speak and do nothing, right?
Exactly.
Look, people, someone who is a criminal and who's evil, you have to expect them to do evil.
Exactly.
Right? But where are their brothers and sisters that are there, that are bought out, but none of them has the idea to think, you know what, like, dude, you expect, you know, all these times when we were growing up, people talking about we heard people talking about the leaders when we were growing up, but there's something inside of your mind that says, you know what, some of them probably have a heart.
Yeah.
Some of them have to. No. I'm saying,
Yeah,
bro,
yeah,
when you're growing up, like, there has to be something that can push them over the edge to have a heart. There has to be a tipping point where their heart emerges. Yeah, there's some goodness, and the heart has to emerge sometime. But you know what? I tell this very, very openly, and like 100% how I feel. It's too late now.
Like, it is.
There's too much damage that happened for that heart to be a tipping point.
And not only that, an awakening has happened, and it's not gonna go back to sleep. It's there. It's gone. It's not going to lay dormant again.
If it's not there, that's the scary part.
Yeah, but it is.
But
it is there because it is there. But okay. So we look at let's say the Middle East. Okay, let's say from the Persian Gulf or the Arabian Gulf, whatever you want to call it, to the Mediterranean Sea, from under Turkey to Yemen. Let's just take that. What they have seen, and exclude Iran, of course, and even big part of Iraq, what they have seen, the Palestinians, these Hamas individuals do, has ignited something in them. But is it a big number? I don't know what the number is, but as I watch, I see a lot of people saying, these people, their iman, their babies, they're burying their babies, and they're still thanking God.
Yep.
So there's an awakening, but the biggest awakening is happening in Western world. So there's an awakening.
Because the Muslim world knew all along, just to give that context, the Muslim world knew all along. They just felt silence because they couldn't say anything.
Let me show you something. So Starbucks in Jordan is suffering tremendously. It's going out of business. So the girl that works at Starbucks has hijab, muhajjaba. You know what her concern is? Look, there's no business. I'm working. How is it my fault? Why am I having to pay for this? I didn't have anything to do with that. A Muslim talks like that. So you still have these sleeping people who have fallen asleep.
But look, people are, just to be fair, people are as strong as their leaders, right?
Yes.
So those borders that were put up and the protection that Jordan offers the people of Israel, the people are going to be just like their leaders.
Of course.
Because they believe their leaders are the ones that are giving them prosperity, right?
Listen.
So they're going to be just like them.
For a leader to make a statement to his people in the heart of the Muslim world that we possibly are going to stop the call of the Idan, he must feel comfortable enough in his people that they are rocked to sleep to say make a statement like that. You think if those people are truly following Islam and understand what Islam, you think a leader who knew that or knows that would say something like that?
That's right.
A friend of mine was flying out of country, out of there, coming back. It was early in the morning. He tells, and I think I said the story before. So he tells the taxi driver his flight wasn't out yet. It would be after Salat al-Fajr. So he tells the driver, drop me off at one of the main masajid there in Amman, Jordan, in Amman. So he's sitting at the steps for them to open for Salat al-Fajr, and a car pulls up. It's mukhabarat.
There you go.
Hey, what are you doing here? He said, what? He said, oh, I'm waiting for the masjid to pray. You can't pray in your own house? This is the filth.
Shameful.
This is the filth.
Shameless.
This is
You understand?
That's the intelligence services for
Yes.
people to understand.
Yes. So this is the filth. So they've gotten so comfortable because the masses have fallen asleep.
Yeah.
How many? And I know the brother when I talked about the Shia in Iran and Hezbollah and stuff like, because all those are attachments to this
Very
fight.
complicit, yeah.
Those are significant parts of the puzzle to this thing here, and we have been fooled long enough as Sunni Muslims. We have been flamboozled because we went to sleep, and then now we have people waking people up, and we really understand what these people plan for us. Let me explain something. You see what Israel's doing to the Palestinians? the bombardment and stuff like that. We talk about everything and what happened in Afghanistan, how many bombs they dropped. You see how many bombs they dropped on Gaza? It wasn't that many that they dropped on. How many bombs did Assad drop on the Sunnis in Iraq?
I mean, Syria. Yeah.
How many? And I'm sorry, it's in Syria. 1 million Syrians died. And 10, 15 million are in exile in refugee camps starving to death. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us is an evil enemy. But I would argue against anyone who will say that Netanyahu is more evil than Assad and his gangs. They were dropping barrel bombs on civilians.
Was it a number, 1 million?
1 million.
Yes.
1 million. 1 million Syrians died, and probably more than that. Look at them. Their houses are gone. You know who's living in their houses in Damascus? The Iranians. They took everything over. Assad gave them everything. Them and Hizb Shaitan in Lebanon.
And then the funny part
And then
is,
the people, you have people who fight with you and argue with you and want to argue with me about what they've done. You haven't seen what they've done to our Syrian Sunni brothers. There's a story I read about Iraq where the Iraqi Shia took a baby and put him in the oven in front of his mom and dad and cooked him.
listen, you know the funny part is, and by the way,
And these are all attached to that. I'm sorry.
No, these regimes,
good, bro.
these regimes were supported and aided by Russia. And now some people are thinking, "Oh, Russia's gonna come save the Palestinians."
And you know who? And you know
they're
who,
gonna enter the war.
And you know who Putin's mother is? Putin's mother, she's a Russian Jew. The guy is a Zionist. The guy is the one that turned the tide in Syria and butchered the Sunnis. He butchered the Muslims in Chechnya.
Yeah.
This is the guy you want him to save. Go look at some of the. Wake up already and stop watching cartoons.
Allahu Akbar.
Yeah, and we've said this time and time again. We expect the Israelis, the Russians to behave the way they do, but the people that have stabbed the Muslims the worst are the Muslim leaders themselves.
Exactly.
This is how you know that this is how we know. Look, Allah is merciful in showing us all of these games because Allah is showing us, look, you only have Allah. You don't have anybody else.
Nobody.
And the people in Palestine know that the best. The people in Gaza know that the best, right? Because sometimes, look, a lot of times the narrative is that it's Hamas that's doing everything. But in reality, look, what scares, I think, people more than Hamas, I'm talking about the Zionists, is when you kill 50 family members of a family. And
single family. Yes.
Single family and their relatives all living in one compound, and they say, Alhamdulillah.
Exactly.
That burns them
right
inside.
there. Not just burn, it shakes them.
Yeah, shakes them in their
It
boots.
shakes
You
them.
kill a reporter's family, and he's 2 days back out reporting, thinking, I can't stop this.
Allahu Akbar.
Yeah.
Dude. So what I'm saying is this, look, this Allah is showing us, you're not going to have, you better not think and look at Russia and be like, oh, Russia's going to come and help us. Iran's going to come and help us.
No.
China's going to come and help us. America's going to come say that. No, this is Allah showing us you only have Allah.
Exactly.
And Allah's done the
And
work
put
for us to
your
show
trust
how
in
evil
Him,
these
and
people
that's
are.
it.
He uncovered the game for us and these people.
Yes.
Allah didn't have to do that for us.
No.
But He did that.
Yes.
He's done that for us. Now Allah is letting you know it's only Allah and the way of Allah and His Rasul is the only way for us to succeed in this.
Sorry, this came in my head because this is bringing back memories of that whole genocide in Syria. I have never seen a Zionist bury somebody alive and force him to say La ilaha illa bashar.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true, actually.
Never.
Think about that for a minute.
And these
You're
guys
in a land
act like
of
they don't
Muslims
see
and
it.
someone is torturing you by trying to say La ilaha illa bashar.
I have never seen in a video an Israeli, and this is not to humanize them because they're beyond that. Take a Sunni Muslim and rip his beard off with their hands as he's talking to him like this. Why are you taking me? And his whole beard comes out in his hand. He's now naked. Pulled all his beard off with his hands, plucked it all out with his mustache. You know how painful that is? Raping women. Raping Muslim sisters. They would shoot a child in the street and wait for somebody to come rescue him, and they would shoot them, and somebody else would come and they would shoot them. These are the people. And these people, my people, Sunnis, Palestinians, want to tell you that these people are Muslims like me and you.
And no, that they're gonna save the Palestine.
They're gonna exactly.
Like, so I think the culmination. I don't want to delve all back in this again, but the main point of all this is that if this war has taught a genocide, has taught anybody about anything, it is that in the end, the people that are suffering and the Muslims that are suffering in the world, they only have Allah to turn to, and if we don't turn to Him, it's going to be continual failure. There's no, I mean, Allah is giving, actually I believe further that Allah is preparing other people. Look to them and see how they deal with the musibah, with the fitan. Look to them, because this will come to you. Allah tells you in the Quran that you're going to be tested, and that test may be you next. How are you going to respond? Are you going to be like these people who have istiqamah? Are you going to be like them and have sabr? Or are you going to be like the people that, that lick any boot that comes to you?
Yeah, time for the talent scouts to come out. Like, people think I'm joking when I said this. I said this yesterday too. Time for talent scouts in the Muslim world to come out and see who has the characteristics of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi.
Exactly.
And if you don't see it, start raising your kids as if they're going to be Salahuddin al-Ayyubi. We don't have a choice. That's what I mean by we only have Allah. Meaning,
Wallahi, in most of my prayers, I say, oh Allah, send us one like Salahuddin.
Yeah, talent scouts.
Oh Allah, send us one like Salahuddin.
No, that's what I'm saying, brother. Everyone's doing dua to find this next Salahuddin.
Yes.
But we need to find out how we create those means. We need to see people who are an influence and get to them. Look, the rulers themselves, we know that they don't have hearts. No. But there's people that are close to them that have hearts that are capable of change. And we need people to talent scout these people. Everyone, what's that rule in the world where everybody's related to, everybody knows the whole...
Third degree.
Third degree of what? It's called something.
6th degree.
Oh, 6th degree, I'm sorry. Yeah,
I think it's 3, isn't it?
No.
6 degrees. Yeah, 6 degrees. Yeah, 3 degrees is really close.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 degrees.
3rd degree. So fine. 6th degree.
Yeah.
The 6th degree, right? So it's a small world in reality, and everybody's connected to somebody somehow. But we need to find somebody. The talent scouts.
Yeah, but ultimately, there's still these contagions in our mind where we're looking for that Salahuddin to be. Oh, Tucker Carlson, he's coming to the aid of Palestinians. And Jackson Hinkle on Twitter, he's got 2 million followers, however many followers. He's going to be...
I'm telling you, and it's not somebody like that. Yeah. And I'm telling you, it will come. And look at what the prophets came from. Look what Prophet Muhammad came from, alayhi salatu wasalam, the least expected.
Allahu Akbar.
And what I'm saying to you is this. It'll be somebody that you will never expect. Not somebody who is in power already. It will be, and Allahu A'lam, it may be somebody from there, but I'm saying don't just look there.
SubhanAllah.
It could be from the poorest family, from a person who has neither a mother or a father left. Allahu A'lam it could be your son. It could be his son. It could be, listen, the masses have been led to different things. A guy took people into Ghana and made them drink Kool-Aid, and they all died. But they followed this guy because he has something. So it's someone...
Oh, Jim Jones.
Yeah, Jim Jones.
Yeah.
Someone is going to come from somewhere by his voice, by his actions. For us Muslims, when Salahuddin al-Ayyubi came, Salahuddin wasn't a heavily religious person. Came out of nowhere.
Actually, you know what's really interesting?
And the state of the Muslim world, before I stop, the state of the Muslim world, when he came, was worse than it is now.
You know the thing about...
he cleaned house before he went anywhere else.
Salahuddin Ayyubi is that, you think of people like a liberator of Palestine, Al-Quds, right? You think in the previous times you have people like Umar bin Khattab, who were... Umar, mashallah, was a big man, a strong man.
Yeah.
But people who actually look into the history of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, he wasn't a big man.
No, he wasn't.
He was actually sick for most of his life.
Look at Sayyidina Dawood.
I'm saying he had ailments.
Yes.
It was difficult for him to get on the horses.
Yes.
Like, he was in pain a lot of times. They don't know. He may have had cancer or some kind of internal disease. They don't know what it was. But he wasn't like this strong figure. But
and-
his attitude,
Yes.
his determination, his istiqamah, his belief, his yaqeen in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is what brought him victory.
But check this out. Look what his struggle started with. Salahuddin al-Ayyubi started his struggle against the Shias in Egypt
Exactly.
in 1164, then
The
moved on
Fatimid.
to fighting in Syria against corrupt Muslim rulers in the 1170s. Then in the 1180s, started to fight the Crusaders head on and face defeats, but ultimately defeated them. So not only did he have to clean up house, which we're saying
Exactly.
clean house,
Before
he had to
anything.
clean the munafiqeen first. And Allah, look, you know the verse when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about, min al-mu'minina rijal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the men. When you're talking about upright men that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen and they've done their job and they're waiting for the next people to come, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to show the sadiqeen who the sadiqeen and then the munafiqeen in the same verse. The munafiqeen meaning the people who are going to be amongst your ranks.
Exactly.
Right? It's not talking about, in this verse, it's not talking about people of nifaq in their iman, meaning that they're acting Muslims,
Meaning
but they're not
in action.
Muslim. In action, they're actually Muslims, right? And Salahuddin Ayyubi saw this. But even then, people just thought he just came and he just finished the Crusades right away. No, they had to struggle there too.
No, his biggest fight. Look, when he took Jerusalem, it was without anything. His biggest fight was in house, and this is what we have now. We're concentrating everything outside, in house. The betrayal, the filth. But I'm gonna tell you, I have to take this real quick.
Okay, but I think,
All right, brother, we
I think
gotta
it's
wrap
just
this
about
up
time to
anyway.
end our show anyway. I think we
Okay.
went over like a half an hour, right?
Yeah.
But
All right, guys. Did you want to say something?
no, I'm good. Jazakallah
Okay.
khairan, bro.
More? Anything else?
We're good.
Okay.
We're good.
We'll see y'all next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Did we go out yet?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No, we're
I
good.
have to answer these.